The 8 terrifying human skeletons recently discovered that shocked archaeologists. Hello everyone! In the world of archaeology, every new discovery brings fascinating surprises, especially when it relates to mysteries from distant pasts. Recently, a series of human skeletons in strange and eerie positions have been discovered, shocking the research community and even raising profound questions about the lives and deaths of ancient civilizations. These skeletons are not just ordinary remains, but also reflect mysterious rituals, bizarre beliefs, and even horrifying stories that we've never encountered before. So, what exactly did the archaeologists recently uncover about these skeletons and the circumstances in which they were found? Let's dive into this right now. One 300-year-old skeleton gives birth in a coffin. In 2010, during an excavation in the town of Imola, near Bologna in northern Italy, archaeologists discovered the 300-year-old skeleton of a woman, estimated to be between 25 and 35 years old. The skull had a hole at the top, and alongside it was the skeleton of a fetus, positioned in an unusual way. The baby's head and torso were located between the mother's thighs, while its legs remained in the pelvic cavity. After further research, scientists concluded that the woman died while pregnant. She gave birth posthumously and was buried with the fetus, a phenomenon known as coffin birth. Archaeologists from the University of Ferrara and the University of Bologna sought to unravel the mystery of the deaths of both mother and child in a study published in World Neurosurgery in May 2018. The researchers suggested that these two unique skeletons could represent an example from the medieval period of a primitive surgical method called trepanation. This procedure involved drilling or cutting a small hole in the patient's skull to relieve pressure and treat various medical conditions. However, in this case, the surgery failed, and the pregnant woman did not survive, dying alongside the fetus in her womb. So the question arises, why does coffin birth occur? What we know after death is the process of decomposition of the body's tissues and cells. This is the key to understanding this mysterious phenomenon. As decomposition progresses, the rapid increase in anaerobic bacteria reduces oxygen levels, leading to the accumulation of gases such as carbon dioxide and methane. These gases not only cause the body to bloat, but also act similarly to the contractions seen before childbirth in women during normal labor. As the gas buildup increases, it creates pressure that, in effect, forces the fetus out of the mother's body. Therefore, the strange phenomenon known as coffin birth occurs during the decomposition process. Though not directly observed, scientists speculate that as the body of a pregnant woman decomposes, gas builds up in the abdominal cavity, and this gas pressure pushes the fetus out. 4,500-year-old skeleton, resting in a pot. In February 2021, during a survey for a road tunnel construction site in England, Wessex Archaeology discovered two ancient graves containing human remains and several valuable artifacts. What makes this discovery especially significant is that the road tunnel project crosses land near Stonehenge, the famous 5,000-year-old stone circle in England. Archaeologists believe that these two newly discovered skeletons could help unravel some of the long-standing mysteries surrounding Stonehenge. The two ancient graves, estimated to be about 4,500 years old, are thought to belong to an adult and a child. This means that these individuals lived approximately 500 years after Stonehenge was built. The burial site's proximity to Stonehenge suggests that it could have been a location of special significance in the spiritual and cultural practices of ancient peoples. According to Daily Mail, the first grave contains the remains of an adult, buried with numerous valuable grave goods such as pottery, flint, red deer antler, a small bowl, a copper awl, and a strange piece of slate placed atop an object resembling a staff. The second grave belongs to the child, whose remains are not fully intact and were buried in a bronze pot. Although this burial seems relatively simple, it holds significant archaeological value, potentially offering insights into the lives and burial practices of ancient people. Archaeologists often believe that differences in burial methods can reflect various customs and beliefs within different social classes of the time. Additionally, further south of the excavation site, experts discovered several unusual C-shaped grooves. These grooves have not been clearly explained in terms of their function, but they resemble strange ditches filled with flint, sparking curiosity about their role in the culture and beliefs of ancient peoples. As you can see, this road tunnel construction project may not only bring traffic benefits by diverting roads underground, but also provide an opportunity to protect the Stonehenge site from the impact of nearby highways. I believe discoveries like this will undoubtedly enrich England's archaeological treasure trove, while also opening new doors to uncover the unsolved mysteries of Stonehenge and the ancient civilization of this region. Golden masked skeletons, hanging on a cliffside. Recently, while mining stones on a mountain in the city of Tongliao, located in the eastern region of the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region in China, workers unexpectedly discovered a stone wall. Initially, they assumed it was just a large underground boulder and didn't pay much attention. However, as they dug deeper into it, the workers noticed that the stones were placed in a very regular pattern, with clear signs of carving. Realizing that it might be a burial site, the crew quickly notified the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region's Archaeology Institute. After sending a team to investigate, the institute confirmed that the workers had unearthed the entrance to a tomb more than 1,000 years old, dating back to the Liao Dynasty. This tomb was no simple structure. It included a stone tomb system with a corridor, burial chamber, and side compartments inside, with a total length of 53.8 feet. Based on the elaborate design, the archaeologists confirmed that this must be the tomb of royalty. The field archaeologists were amazed when they discovered stairs built into the steep rock face of Erjishan Mountain. These stairs led down to a spacious burial chamber. Inside the tomb, along with a coffin, they found over 200 precious burial items, such as crystal cups, silver-coated horse saddles, gold rings, gold bells, and crystal-handled daggers, all remarkably well preserved. Of course, for the archaeologists, the most fascinating artifact in the tomb was a wooden coffin made of red cedar, intricately carved with phoenix patterns and remarkably well preserved. The wooden base of the coffin was also brightly painted. However, because the coffin had been buried in wet silt for an extended period, much of the paint on the base had faded. The archaeologists had to work together to open the extremely heavy cedar coffin, and as they slowly lifted the lid, two mummified bodies wearing strange gold masks were revealed. These two bodies were relatively well preserved, wrapped in several layers of silk clothing. To protect the dignity of the deceased, the experts chose not to immediately remove the gold masks. Instead, they decided to use the most advanced technology available at the time to scan the bodies to gather more information about the tomb's occupant. However, something strange happened. As the archaeologists prepared to move the bodies to the research lab, a mysterious white liquid began to leak from the cracks in the coffin and flow out in increasing amounts. Upon seeing this, the experts quickly alerted everyone present to evacuate the tomb. They managed to escape just in time, as the experts were aware that the Khitan people of the region had a custom of pouring mercury over the deceased to preserve their bodies. As you may know, mercury is a highly toxic substance. The large amount of mercury soaked in the coffin explained why the two bodies, aged for over 1,000 years, had not decomposed. However, inhaling significant amounts of mercury vapor can lead to poisoning, convulsions, or even death, which is why the archaeological team had to evacuate immediately. Ultimately, the team decided to transport the bodies to a museum for cleaning and DNA testing. The results of the DNA tests shocked the academic community. Through inscriptions and Liao Dynasty historical documents, as well as the test results, the archaeologists determined that this was the tomb of Princess Chen Guo of the Khitan Liao Dynasty, the younger sister of Liao Taizu, the first emperor of the Liao Dynasty. The princess died at the age of 18 and was buried with her husband, who was also her uncle. This was due to royal family customs of cousin marriage at the time. Historical records do not specify the exact cause of death, only that it was due to illness. The Liao history also notes that Princess Chen Guo was highly revered for her contributions, and both the emperor and the people loved her, which is why she was granted such a grand tomb. Both the princess and her husband were buried with gold masks, intricately carved to resemble the faces of the deceased. The tradition of placing gold masks on the dead was a special custom of the Khitan people, meant to preserve the majestic expression of the deceased even after facial features had decomposed. At this point, we can confidently say that the gold masks and the burial items found in Princess Chen Guo's tomb are the first intact artifacts recovered from the Liao Dynasty. The treasures discovered have become historical artifacts, helping to fill in the knowledge gaps about a once powerful empire that had long been forgotten. Mysterious skeleton found amid a pile of gold. Archaeologists in Bulgaria recently stumbled upon a massive Bronze Age cemetery filled with the oldest gold artifacts ever discovered near the modern city of Varna. In this cemetery, there is one particularly special tomb where the remains inside were buried with so much gold that even the man's genitals were covered in gold. Archaeologists have referred to this unique tomb as Tomb No. 43. This tomb contains the remains of a man who was buried with an immense treasure of gold, so much in fact that it exceeds the total amount of gold discovered by archaeologists from the entire Bronze Age. This indicates that the man must have held a very high social status during his life. So who was this wealthy man and what kind of society did he live in? Most people have heard of the great civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt, but few are familiar with the mysterious civilization that appeared along the shores of a lake near the Black Sea around 7,000 years ago. This is the Varna civilization. The Varna civilization is considered an astonishingly advanced civilization, even older than the empires of Mesopotamia and Egypt. In particular, Varna is known as the first civilization to have crafted gold artifacts. Varna is also home to the largest known prehistoric cemetery in southeastern Europe, which reflects the richness of cultural practices, complex rituals, an ancient belief system, and the ability to produce exquisite goods, crafted professionally. This is considered the cradle of civilization in Europe, as it influenced the entire continent for thousands of years to come. Evidence shows that from around 4600 to 4200 BCE, goldsmithing began to emerge and flourish in Varna. The increase in trade allowed metallurgists to accumulate vast wealth, and soon, social distinctions emerged, with metallurgists at the top, followed by merchants in the middle class, and farmers at the bottom. Particularly remarkable discoveries at a nearby cemetery also show that Varna likely had rulers or leaders in power. Within this cemetery, many elite tombs have been discovered, but none are as exceptional as Tomb No. 43, which I mentioned earlier. Inside Tomb No. 43, archaeologists found the remains of a man of high status, possibly a ruler or leader of some sort. The amount of gold buried with this man serves as evidence of his high rank. This man has also been given the name Varna and was buried with a scepter, a symbol of high or spiritual power. What is particularly unique is that this man was also buried with a solid gold sheath over his genitals. However, researchers have yet to determine the exact identity of this individual. The skeletons of a couple, still embracing each other. Near the Petrikiv settlement in the southern part of Ternopil, Ukraine, archaeologists recently discovered the remains of a couple who died 3,000 years ago, holding each other tightly. Based on the position of the skeletons, researchers believe that initially, only the man had passed away. However, the woman willingly entered the tomb, embraced her partner's body, and accepted being buried alive because she didn't want to be separated from him. This conclusion is drawn from the fact that the woman's body could not have been positioned in a way that she was holding the man unless she had died after being buried. Through preliminary analysis and examination, researchers indicated that the couple were residents of the Vysotskaya culture, an ancient culture known for its strong emphasis on marital fidelity and mutual responsibility. Professor Mykola Bandrivsky, director of the Transcarpathian branch of the Archaeological Conservation Service at the Ukrainian Institute of Archaeology, who has spent many years studying the burial practices of lovers in the Vysotskaya culture, said, "This is a unique burial custom, where the man and woman are holding each other tightly. Their faces are close together and their foreheads touch. The woman lies on her back with her right arm gently wrapped around the man, her wrist resting on his right shoulder. Her legs are slightly bent and placed over the man's outstretched legs. Both of the spouses are wearing copper jewelry, and near their heads, several ceramic items have been placed, such as a bowl, a jar, and 3 small water scoops." Bandrivsky also added that the people living at the end of the Bronze Age held a firm belief in the eternal existence of the soul. Marriage was highly respected in the Vysotskaya culture, with specific duties for both the husband and wife regulated by society. It was common for women in this culture to desire to pass on to the afterlife with their beloved husbands. It is known that in some other parts of Europe, men and women were also buried in pairs lying next to each other. However, in the Vysotskaya culture, the couple's position was arranged in a much more distinctive manner to better express their tenderness and deep love for one another. The skeletons curled up in caves in the forest. This story comes from a cave deep in the Cuc Phuong Forest, located in No Quan District, Ninh Binh Province, Vietnam. The cave is named Dong Nguoi Sua, or the Cave of Ancient People, which is a prehistoric residence and burial site. It was discovered by archaeologists in 1966. The cave covers an area of about 320 square feet and consists of 3 chambers. The outer chamber is wide and spacious, facing southwest, and it was selected by prehistoric people as a living area. The middle chamber is narrow, dark, and damp, home to bats. The innermost chamber is dark and damp with a beautiful stalactite system. In 1966, the Vietnam Institute of Archaeology, in collaboration with Cuc Phuong National Park and with the help of German experts, conducted excavations in this cave. The results revealed a rich and diverse cultural layer, including river and mountain snails, as well as animal bones and teeth from species such as apes, monkeys, bears, wild boars, deer, and more. Additionally, they discovered tools like stone axes, stone knives, and a layer of ash nearly 6.5 feet thick. During the excavation, the archaeologists also uncovered 3 graves at depths ranging from 16 to 55 inches, containing fossilized human skeletons buried in curled or squatting positions, still quite intact, dating back approximately 7,500 years. The remains were buried around stone embankments with a gravel base, and some graves had ochre sprinkled on them. Most of these graves were located near cooking areas. It is believed that the graves in the cave represent the first ever discovery of burial structures within the Hoa Binh culture, an ancient Vietnamese culture. These finds provide us with insight into early beliefs as well as primitive religious practices. Dong Nguoi Sua is a dry cave typical of limestone mountains, with a cool and airy atmosphere, which is likely why prehistoric people chose it as their place of residence. It is known that of the 3 skeletons excavated from Dong Nguoi Sua, 2 are preserved at the Vietnam Archaeological Museum, while 1 is stored and displayed at the Cuc Phuong Museum. Cuc Phuong National Park spans 3 provinces, Ninh Binh, Hoa Binh, and Thanh Hoa, covering a total area of 55,399 acres. It is the first national park in Vietnam and currently attracts many tourists from both within the country and abroad for relaxation and exploration. If you get the chance, I recommend you visit this place. I'm sure you'll be amazed by what this country and its people have to offer. Mass grave of 380. Skeletons from the 1st century. Recently, archaeologists discovered a mass grave containing 380 human skeletons in Denmark. After analysis and examination, the archaeologists confirmed that these remains date back to the 1st century AD, a time when the Roman Empire was expanding northward and frequently engaging in fierce battles with ancient Germanic tribes. Many researchers, led by Mette Løvskjold from Aarhus University in Denmark, found nearly 380 human skeletons in the Engi wetlands of the Illerup Valley, Denmark. The majority of the skeletons were male adults, aged between 40 and 60. In addition, the remains of some children, only 13 to 14 years old, were also discovered. All the remains showed signs of trauma to the body before death. Furthermore, traces of animal gnawing, from animals such as foxes, dogs, and wolves, were found on the bones. According to Dr. Mette Løvskjold, many of the markings found on the skeletons suggest that not all of these soldiers were professionally trained or had prior combat experience. It is very likely that they were quickly gathered to confront the enemy. In addition to the 380 skeletons, archaeologists also uncovered various weapons, including swords, iron knives, axes, and fragments of shields. Additionally, there were ceramic pots, as well as the bones of dogs, pigs, and livestock. These discoveries lead experts to speculate that the conflict between the Roman Empire and the Germanic tribes had a significant impact on society at the time. These battles were large-scale, involving people of various ages. The 2,000-year-old Roman soldier's skeleton reveals an ancient tragedy. In May 2021, an impressive archaeological discovery was announced, stunning the world with the secrets left behind by Mount Vesuvius more than 2,000 years ago. This discovery involves the skeleton of a Roman soldier, buried in the ash from the catastrophic volcanic eruption of 79 AD, identified as a hero who sacrificed his life while trying to rescue citizens in Herculaneum, an ancient Roman city. First discovered in the early 1980s, the skeleton was initially thought to belong to an ordinary soldier, one of the many thousands who perished in the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius. However, recent findings from recent excavations, such as a piece of the soldier's armor and a shoulder bag filled with small woodworking tools, suggest that this soldier might have been a far more important figure, possibly even an officer in Pliny the Elder's rescue team, a famous historian and the naval commander of the Roman Empire. He died while trying to help the people trapped by ash and molten lava. The soldier's skeleton was found lying along the coast, near a boat. Archaeologists also found over 300 other skeletons, indicating that these people were in the process of being rescued from the disaster zone. Additionally, a leather belt adorned with gold and silver, a sword with an ivory handle, along with 12 silver denarii coins and 2 gold coins were discovered near the skeleton. All these items suggest that the soldier belonged to an elite unit of the Roman army, specifically soldiers who served in the emperor's guard and participated in military intelligence operations. Therefore, it's not surprising that this soldier perished during the rescue mission, given his important role. The story of this Roman soldier is not just one of sacrifice, but also an important part of the history of the Mount Vesuvius disaster. The eruption in 79 AD killed thousands of people and completely destroyed the cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum. Within a few hours, lava and hot gases from the volcano buried these cities under a thick layer of ash at speeds reaching up to 50 miles per hour. More than 2,000 people died, including this brave Roman soldier who fell in his attempt to save the people trapped in the disaster. The 7 most shocking archaeological discoveries in Poland. The 1,800-year-old intact skeleton of a woman found in a cremation cemetery. In a recent excavation at a Roman cremation cemetery in Poland, archaeologists made an incredibly impressive discovery when they found 2 perfectly preserved skeletons that had been well preserved for nearly 2,000 years. This discovery has raised many questions and attracted the attention of both the scientific community and archaeology enthusiasts worldwide. Both skeletons date back to the 2nd century AD and were found in the village of Gak, located in southeastern Poland. The first skeleton belonged to a woman about 30 years old, buried in a wooden coffin and covered by a large mound of earth, known as a kurgan. This was a fairly extravagant burial tradition, typically reserved for individuals of high social status at the time. This suggests that the woman may have been an important figure in the Roman community of that era. The second skeleton, that of a child, was so well preserved that even after 1,800 years, scientists were able to extract and analyze the oxygen levels in the child's teeth to learn about their diet. Understanding the variety or limitations of their food sources could reveal much about the child's life, such as their social class. This is a large cemetery with over 100 cremation pits, and these 2 skeletons are the only ones found to be intact. Analysis by the team of archaeologists led by Dr. Anna Lasota-Kus from the Polish Academy of Sciences showed that the composition of the soil here helped preserve the skeletons better than in other regions. Normally, with the environmental conditions of the 2nd century AD, skeletons buried in wooden coffins would not be preserved so well. Currently, archaeologists are continuing to analyze these skeletons in the lab, hoping to learn more about the origins of these individuals, whether they were native to the area or migrated from distant lands. The 50 ancient tombs and many valuable jewelry pieces. Recently, a remarkable archaeological discovery made waves in the research community and among history enthusiasts when archaeologists in Poland uncovered a large Gothic cemetery filled with silver jewelry dating back to the 4th century. This discovery was made by Olaf Popkiewicz, a popular YouTube content creator specializing in archaeological videos, who stumbled upon it while walking along the Wday River, located in the protected Wday Landscape Park in northern central Poland. During his visit, he discovered 2 silver necklaces, 2 silver brooches, and beads that were part of a 3rd necklace. Popkiewicz immediately alerted a team of archaeologists to excavate the area. The archaeologists worked for 3 weeks, excavating more than 2,700 square feet of the cemetery and uncovered 50 Gothic-style graves. Among the finds were a rich collection of burial artifacts, including ceramic items, brooches, amber beads, and especially finely crafted jewelry decorated with snake motifs, a common detail in Gothic culture. However, what surprised the archaeologists even more was that this excavation area could be just a small part of a much larger ancient cemetery, possibly extending over 2.5 acres. This provides vivid evidence of the presence of the Goths in this region during the 4th century. Speaking of the Goths, one can't help but think of one of Europe's great tribes. According to historical records, the Goths migrated from Scandinavia and settled in various parts of Europe from the 1st century AD. They are famously known for their sack of Rome in 410 AD. Later, they split into two major branches, the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths, establishing powerful kingdoms in Iberia and Italy. However, these kingdoms didn't last long, as the Goths were defeated by the Moors in 711 AD. Recent studies show that the Goths in Roman period Poland were actually skilled jewelers, with their jewelry not only being aesthetically pleasing, but also holding deep historical significance. Surely, with each new discovery, we gain more valuable insights into the lives and culture of the Goths, a people who left a profound mark on European history. What do you think about these discoveries? The traces of Gothic culture have helped us better understand the past and the fascinating stories from ancient times. Please share your thoughts with us by leaving a comment below. The skeleton of a 6,005 feet tall medieval woman. In the book New Developments in the Field of Bioarchaeology and Healthcare by Magda Maczak, an astonishing discovery in archaeology is revealed. The story of a medieval woman's skeleton, measuring over 6.5 feet tall, discovered on Ostrów Lednicki Island in Poland in 1977. This skeleton stands out not only due to its remarkable height compared to the average individual of the time, but also because of signs that suggest the woman lived a short and painful life due to illness. After analyzing the skeleton, researchers found that she suffered from acromegaly, a rare disease caused by the overproduction of growth hormone by the pituitary gland, leading to abnormal bone growth. This condition caused her skull to grow unusually large, and at the time, it was considered one of the largest skulls ever excavated. Additionally, her spine showed signs of joint degeneration, likely a result of her height and excessive body weight. These signs indicate that, although she had an outstanding physical appearance, the physical abnormalities were a significant burden on her health. Furthermore, the skeleton revealed that she had experienced several painful injuries, including broken arms and legs and pneumonia, one of the common illnesses in medieval society. Another unique detail was her burial posture. While other graves in the cemetery had their heads facing west, this woman's face was turned to the east. Her arms were also bent, unlike the usual practice of stretching the arms out in other burial rituals. These differences suggest a distinct burial practice, which may reflect her social status. Archaeologists hypothesize that she belonged to a lower social class due to the lack of burial goods and the unusual burial ritual. Magda Maczak made a profound observation in her book. All details such as the unusual burial orientation and the absence of burial goods suggest that this woman belonged to a lower social class. We know that speculating about the emotional state of the deceased based solely on remaining bones may be inaccurate. However, based on modern clinical medical knowledge, we believe that at times, the woman may have felt emotions such as irritability, anxiety, confusion, sadness, and anger. This discovery not only sheds light on the difficult life of a medieval woman, but also offers a new perspective on how diseases impacted people's lives and social status in the past. The vampire child in a Polish cemetery. In August 2023, in the village of Pień, Poland, archaeologists discovered a 17th century grave containing the remains of a child. However, what made this grave particularly remarkable wasn't the location or the child's age, but the unusual burial posture and the strange rituals surrounding it. The child was buried face down, with its legs shackled by an iron chain, leading archaeologists to hypothesize that the child might have been considered a vampire. The burial position and the chain could have been used to prevent the child from rising from the grave to take revenge on the villagers, much like the vampire legends we still hear about today. The skeleton of the child, identified as being between 5 and 7 years old, was discovered. This is not the only find at this location. In 2022, archaeologists had also discovered the remains of a woman believed to be a vampire, buried with a lock attached to her big toe and a sickle placed across her neck, thought to be intended to prevent her from rising from the dead. These discoveries have illuminated an important aspect of burial practices from that period, revealing a special tradition connected to beliefs in vampires and fear stemming from folklore. Professor Dariusz Polinsky, the head of the excavation, stated that the two graves were located just 6.5 feet apart in a special cemetery area, which researchers believe was used to bury those who were outcasts, individuals who were not accepted in Christian cemeteries. These graves often involved unusual burial methods, with many vampire-slaying tactics applied, such as triangle-shaped locks attached to the feet of the deceased, along with signs that the graves had been disturbed or tampered with after the initial burial. The question arises, why were these people treated this way? Professor Polinsky explained that they may have exhibited strange behaviors while alive that caused fear among others. Alternatively, they might have suffered from an illness that made their appearance unusual, leading people to believe they could be vampires. People in the 17th century often feared unbaptized children or those who drowned, believing they could return from the dead to harm the living. The vampire burial practice was not only common in Poland, but also widespread across Europe from the 14th century. According to Matteo Borini, a forensic anthropologist at Liverpool John Moores University, people in ancient times often associated unexplained deaths with the appearance of vampires. They believed that these vampires would relentlessly hunt and kill family members, then move on to killing neighbors and villagers, similar to the way infectious diseases spread through communities. This truly makes us reflect on the strange beliefs and practices of the past, doesn't it? Such discoveries not only help us understand burial history, but also highlight the fear and superstitions that people held in the past. Do you think the people of the past truly believed in vampires, or were these simply explanations for phenomena they couldn't understand? 4,800-year-old burial site reveals a terrifying secret. A prehistoric burial site has revealed a brutal massacre of women and children from a large family in Poland 4,800 years ago. This is the theory put forward by researchers after analyzing the remains of a group of 15 prehistoric individuals discovered near the village of Kozice, a town in Prozowicz County in southern Poland. The burial site, which contained no adult male bones, led experts to conclude that the women and children in the grave were likely murdered while the men were away. It is believed that the men of the family returned from a trip, possibly a hunting expedition, to find their family slaughtered by a group of hostile opponents. The surviving warriors carefully rearranged the remains of their loved ones, positioning the mothers as if they were cradling their children, along with jewelry and pets. Earlier excavations in 2011 uncovered a mass grave, with broken bones and skulls that had been cut, showing they suffered a painful and horrific death. Analysis of the bones revealed that all the individuals came from related families living around 2800 BCE. 4 of the women were buried with their children, and among the men in the pit, 4 were half-brothers. One middle-aged woman was buried next to her 2 young sons, while a mother, approximately 30 to 35 years old, was laid to rest with her teenage daughter and 5-year-old son. It remains unclear why so many men were missing from the grave, but it is speculated that a large group may have been out hunting or working the fields. Many goods were also found at the site, and the array of items suggests that these people belong to the globular amphora culture. Genetic analysis of the remains reveals that these individuals were farmers, and a study published in the multidisciplinary Journal of the National Academy of Sciences suggests that the corded ware people could be blamed for this horrific act. These populations shared common DNA, but the corded ware culture of the time was rapidly expanding across Europe, which could have led to a massacre by neighboring groups. The corded ware people are thought to have coexisted and integrated with the Yamnaya culture, which was considered one of the most violent groups of the time. The Yamnaya culture emerged around 3300 to 2600 BCE on the European steppe and quickly spread across the continent, destroying cultures and blending with others. Ancient DNA shows that these migrants were well-nourished, tall, and muscular. Some archaeologists also believe that the warrior tribes included many elite horse riders. It seems they primarily survived on meat and dairy products, which made them stronger and more robust. So, who were the globular amphora people? The globular amphora people lived between 3400 and 2800 BCE in Central Europe. They coexisted with the corded ware and Yamnaya people, and were primarily farmers, trading livestock, particularly pigs. Researchers have found evidence suggesting their settlements were small, crude, and temporary. Their burial customs were also notable, with large burial pits and the inclusion of animal bones and offerings with the dead. They shared DNA with the rapidly expanding corded ware culture and were later integrated into the Yamnaya culture after being invaded by the Yamnaya people from the west, who ruthlessly swept across the continent. Some believe this invasion led to the massacre of all the men, with women being raped to quickly reproduce and continue the Yamnaya bloodline. Such aggressive and brutal acts would have certainly sparked significant outrage in the Stone Age society, and the people likely needed to take action to suppress the growing Yamnaya power. Evidence of a war against the Yamnaya Empire has been discovered at an archaeological site in Germany called Uhlau. There, graves were found containing a large number of women and children. Strontium isotope analysis of adult teeth showed that they were not local to the area and had likely grown up elsewhere before migrating, likely women captured by the Yamnaya. Of the 13 bodies found at the site, 5 showed signs of injury, which may have contributed to their deaths. Experts suggest this could be evidence that they were ambushed and massacred by rival tribes in a revenge attack. The men of the tribe likely left the site to tend to livestock when the raid occurred, leaving the women and children defenseless. Uhlau stands as an example of revenge by the local population, but experts also caution that there are some unusual aspects to the event, and many more mysteries are likely to be revealed in the future. The mysterious figure in the tomb in Poland. During an archaeological survey near the village of Bodzia, northwest of Warsaw, Poland, in preparation for a highway construction project, researchers accidentally discovered a cemetery dating back to the late 10th to early 11th century. Among the graves, the research team paid special attention to a mysterious tomb containing the skeleton of a young warrior, about 20 years old, with a sword placed beside him. Several signs, such as a broken jaw and a shattered skull, indicate that this man suffered a violent death. Surprisingly, right next to him was the skeleton of a 20-year-old woman who also endured a painful death. Andrzej Buko, head of the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnology at the Polish Academy of Sciences, stated, "The artifacts in the tomb suggest that he was connected to one of the first Slavic kings." Researchers discovered a silver amulet resembling a bird, likely an eagle, with outstretched wings, the meaning of which remains a mystery. Additionally, they found a silver necklace, crystal stones, and a carnelian bead designed in the classic Slavic style, confirming the status and wealth of the tomb's owner. Notably, engravings on a bronze belt suggest that the wearer was a close ally or possibly a relative of Sviatopolk. Sviatopolk was a member of the Kievan Rus dynasty, the first East Slavic state, located in present-day eastern Poland. He ascended to the throne in the early 11th century. To consolidate power, he killed his brothers. It is possible that this young warrior was a senior member of Sviatopolk's military. There is even a chance that he could have been Sviatopolk's son. In other graves, the team also discovered various pieces of jewelry belonging to medieval East European women. Buko and his colleagues believe the men buried here may have been Viking warriors tasked with protecting a medieval prince. At this time, Viking warriors played an important role in Eastern European society. They protected Byzantine emperors in Constantinople. However, these remain only preliminary hypotheses, and researchers have yet to offer any further information about these findings. A half-million-year-old treasure from another human species. The most valuable artifacts of another human species, along with many extinct animal bones, were unearthed from the Tunel Wielki cave in Poland in 2018. Recently, researchers have uncovered the true value of these findings. Initially, the rich collection of artifacts, which included approximately 40 pieces of flint, both food processing tools and byproducts of flint toolmaking, as well as numerous animal bones from various species, were estimated to be around 40,000 years old. However, a new study led by Dr. Małgorzata Kot from the Department of Archaeology at the University of Warsaw has revealed that the treasure is actually between 440,000 and 550,000 years old. This finding has significant implications. Firstly, the astonishing age of these artifacts confirms that the diverse collection of animal remains, including those of a wolf, a cave bear, and a cave lion, belong to ancient, now extinct ancestors of these species. Most of the animal bones appear to be naturally occurring rather than processed, despite being found near flint tools, leading scientists to believe that these animals simply lived at the same time as the cave's human occupants and were inadvertently trapped in a layer of sediment. Secondly, these remains could not belong to modern humans. Homo sapiens have only existed on Earth for a little more than 300,000 years. Thus, the finely crafted flint tools, the most valuable items of these ancient cave dwellers, are now regarded as priceless relics left behind by an extinct human species. It remains unclear who they were and which species they belonged to. Scientists believe they were likely Homo heidelbergensis, a species within the Homo genus that is closely related to both modern humans and Neanderthals in Europe. The clearest evidence of their existence has been dated to between 600,000 and 400,000 years ago. As a result, the findings in the Tunel Wielkie cave have become the oldest human remains ever discovered in Poland, promising numerous future studies in anthropology and paleobiology. The 7 rare archaeological discoveries in history. The alien skull box in Mexico. Recently, archaeologists reported that they had discovered many human skulls with strange alien-like shapes at a 1,000-year-old cemetery in Mexico. This cemetery was discovered in 1999 by the residents of Anavas village in Mexico while they were building an irrigation canal. This is the first time a pre-Columbian cemetery has been discovered in Sonora, northern Mexico. The area, also known as El Cementerio, contains a total of 25 burial sites, 13 of which have unusual characteristics. Many of the skulls in these sites were deformed, elongated, and pointed at the back, differing significantly from the skull shapes of modern humans. Additionally, some skulls had teeth that were cut, creating bizarre shapes. It is known that the practice of shaping children's skulls as they grew was quite common in Central America, and these findings suggest that this tradition spread to the northern regions, something scientists had not previously considered. The loss of part of the teeth is linked to the habit of grinding the teeth into strange shapes, while the deformation of the skulls is related to abnormal manipulation during the development of the skull by applying pressure, such as tying wooden boards to the sides of a child's head. Skull deformation was used in many different communities worldwide as a religious ritual or to create social distinctions within or between groups. However, the exact reason why these people in El Cementerio deform their skulls remains a mystery. Another special feature of this discovery is that among the 25 burial sites, all were of children aged from 5 months to 16 years old. The large number of children's remains in the excavation area suggests that the skull deformation practice may have caused their deaths due to the excessive force applied to the skulls. Archaeologists did not find signs of diseases that could explain these deaths. Notably, while the skull deformation and teeth-cutting rituals were common among Mesoamerican, Mexico and Central America, and Western Mexican communities during the pre-Columbian era, scientists have not found similar sites in Sonora and the southwestern United States, which shared the same pre-Columbian culture. Therefore, researchers have boldly hypothesized that the residents of El Cementerio may have been influenced by migrants from the south. Additionally, the researchers discovered some skeletons with special jewelry, such as earrings, necklaces, and bracelets made of shells and snails from the Gulf of California. One skeleton even had a turtle shell placed on its chest, which could be part of a burial ritual. However, archaeologists are also questioning why some skeletons were buried with these items, while others were not. Another interesting detail is that among the 25 skeletons found, only one was female. This raises questions about the role of women in the society of these people, as they were rarely present in the cemetery. This question remains unanswered to this day. However, with these findings, archaeologists hope to continue excavating more parts of the cemetery in future studies. They expect to gather more information to clarify the relationship between the residents of El Cementerio and the ancient Mesoamerican communities. And perhaps deeper research in the future will help us better understand the culture and burial practices of the people who lived in this area over 1,000 years ago. The Giant Wombat Cemetery. Recently, scientists made another fascinating discovery when they announced the finding of the largest known cemetery of the Diprotodon, a giant extinct marsupial that went extinct around 50,000 years ago. This cemetery is located in Queensland, Australia, and contains at least 20 skeletons of this species, with the most notable being the skeleton of a giant wombat named Kenny. Kenny is one of the most well-preserved fossilized wombats, with a jawbone measuring up to 27.5 inches in length, showcasing the grandeur and strength of this species. For those who don't know, the Diprotodon was the largest marsupial ever to exist, weighing as much as 6,200 pounds, equivalent to the weight of a modern rhinoceros. This species once roamed Earth from 50,000 to 2 million years ago, wandering across Australia during prehistoric periods. They were massive creatures with huge bodies and are believed to have fed on grasses and low-lying plants. However, after the emergence of modern humans, coupled with climate change, the Diprotodon gradually went extinct. Therefore, the discovery of this cemetery has helped scientists better understand the extinction process of these giant marsupials. Mr. Scott Hocknull, the lead excavator and researcher at the Queensland Museum, explained that by studying the wombat fossils found in this cemetery, the research team will recreate the environmental model in which this species lived. More importantly, they will investigate the primary causes that led to the environmental changes affecting the Diprotodon. Scientists suspect that climate change played a major role in altering the wombat's habitat, making it difficult for them to adapt to the sudden shifts in climate and environment. Furthermore, the rise of humans, with their hunting abilities and resource exploitation, might have driven the wombats, along with other species, out of their habitats and food sources. If this is true, the discovery of this giant wombat cemetery will undoubtedly be significant in understanding extinct species and could help scientists uncover one of the biggest mysteries in natural history: the extinction causes of large prehistoric animals. It also offers insights into the impacts of humans and climate change on animals in the past, providing valuable lessons for today's wildlife and ecosystem conservation efforts. Human brain tissue preserved for 1,600 years. In April 2012, a truly remarkable archaeological discovery shocked the scientific community when British researchers announced they had found a 2,600-year-old brain tissue belonging to a man from the Stone Age. What was surprising was that this brain tissue was incredibly well preserved, despite no artificial preservation methods being applied. The discovery was made near the village of Heslington, an area that was once home to a man who lived around 673 to 482 BC. As the man's body began to decompose, other body parts such as flesh and hair completely decomposed and disappeared, but a small portion of his brain tissue remained intact to this day. This is an extremely rare phenomenon in nature, as brain tissue typically begins to decompose immediately after death. It's important to note that since 2008, researchers from the York Archaeological Trust had excavated the skull of this prehistoric man at the archaeological site in Heslington, but it wasn't until 2012 that they publicly announced the finding, as this was one of the oldest human brain tissue samples discovered in the UK. Normally, after death, brain tissue decomposes quickly due to the fact that the brain is composed of 80% water and various proteins that contribute to the destruction of cellular structures when life ends. Soft tissues like the brain can only be preserved if artificial interventions like drying, freezing, or storage in an anaerobic or acidic environment are applied. However, in this case, the prehistoric brain from Heslington defied this natural decomposition process. After months of researching the proteins in the brain tissue, a team of international scientists finally gathered enough evidence to explain this extraordinary natural preservation. Dr. Axel Petzold, the lead researcher, stated, "The proteins in this man's brain helped bind the tissue and protect it from decomposition. They helped maintain the brain tissue and made it more durable over time, even more so than DNA. Typically, proteins are concentrated in the white matter of the brain, but in this case, the proteins were unusually dense in the gray matter, which is an odd and exceptional phenomenon." The dried blood of King Louis XVI. On January 21, 1793, King Louis XVI of France was executed by guillotine during the French Revolution. This event not only marked the end of a monarchy, but also became a pivotal moment in history. Legend has it that when the 39-year-old king's head fell to the ground, witnesses quickly retrieved it and dipped their handkerchiefs into his blood as a way of keeping a memento of the revolution. Over the centuries, this story became more than just a legend when scientists discovered a dried gourd containing a blood-stained handkerchief belonging to Louis XVI. This gourd later became a valuable artifact, depicted with portraits of revolutionary heroes and an inscription that reads, "On January 21st, Maximilien Bourdaloue dipped his handkerchief into the blood of Louis XVI after his execution." According to the legend, Bourdaloue placed the handkerchief inside the gourd and had it decorated. This item became a historical relic, but it was later kept by a family in Italy for over a decade. Recently, scientists from France and Spain studied this gourd and made some surprising discoveries. By analyzing the blood sample inside the gourd, they found genetic markers that match descriptions of Louis XVI, including blue eyes. However, since there are no DNA samples from Louis XVI's descendants for comparison, the confirmation is not completely certain. The study took an important step further when they discovered genetic links between the blood in the gourd and a mummified head belonging to King Henry IV, an ancestor of Louis XVI. Through gene comparison, the research team established a genealogical connection between Louis XVI and King Henry IV, even though they were separated by 7 generations. Both shared a rare genetic marker, which is compelling evidence that the blood in the gourd could indeed belong to Louis XVI. This finding supports the hypothesis that these items are not only revolutionary relics, but also important artifacts from the French royal family. Additionally, the study revealed an interesting story about the head of King Henry IV, who was assassinated in 1610 at the age of 57. For 2 centuries, his head was bought and sold at auctions or kept in private collections. It wasn't until 2010 that scientists found evidence confirming the head belonged to Henry, using identification features consistent with 16th century portraits of the king, alongside carbon dating, 3D scans, and X-rays. However, the 2010 study lacked DNA evidence, and its findings were met with some skepticism. All of this changed when Carles Lalueza Fox, the co-author of the new study and a researcher at the Institut de Biologia Evolutiva in Barcelona, said that the evidence collected increased the likelihood by 250 times that the owner of the head and the blood in the gourd were related. He further stated that by synthesizing forensic evidence, historical data, and folklore, it would be surprising if these artifacts didn't belong to the 2 kings who were murdered. The data obtained from Louis XVI can now be used to decode his genetic makeup and help locate any living relatives of the last king of France. Mummified child who ate cactus before being sacrificed. Thousands of years ago, a child in Peru was sacrificed in an ancient ritual and beheaded as a war trophy. Analysis of the hair samples from the child's head revealed that the victim had consumed hallucinogenic plants before death. Specifically, a team of experts led by Dagmara Socha from the Andes Research Center at the University of Warsaw, Poland, excavated the remains as part of the Nazca Project, an archaeological program that began in 1982. While the child's gender and age at death remain unknown, they reported that the child had eaten the Echinopsis pachanoi cactus, a spiny plant containing potent hallucinogens, which was commonly used by Native American peoples for medicinal and ritualistic purposes. The child's intact head was one of 22 remains associated with the Nazca Society that was studied in the research. All of the individuals lived during the pre-Columbian era, from 3500 BC to AD 476, and were buried near the southern coastal region of Peru. Socha stated, "This intact head represents the first known case of an individual who consumed Echinopsis pachanoi cactus living along the southern coast of Peru. It is also the first evidence showing that some sacrificial victims were forced to ingest psychoactive substances before their deaths." Additionally, in the study, Socha and her team collected hair samples from 4 trophy heads, 3 of which belonged to adults, and 18 mummies of both adults and children. Upon examining these samples, archaeologists discovered that many of the individuals had consumed hallucinogens such as Echinopsis pachanoi cactus, coca leaves, which contain cocaine, and Banisteriopsis caapi, which contains harmine, the main ingredient in ayahuasca, a well-known hallucinogenic drink used by indigenous Amazonian peoples. These compounds were used in the Nazca civilization from around 100 BC to AD 450. Although researchers have found much evidence suggesting that these plants were used for medicinal and religious rituals, the widespread use of such stimulants in Nazca culture has not yet been fully understood. Mummified eyes, open in Egypt. Egyptian archaeologists recently made an important discovery when they found the mummified remains of a woman who lived approximately 2,300 years ago in the Bahariya Oasis, located in the Libyan desert. This area is about 186 miles southwest of Cairo, Egypt's capital, and is rich in ancient ruins, including tombs and mummies. The archaeological team uncovered a total of 14 tombs, with the woman's mummified remains found in one of them. Experts believe that this woman lived during the Greco-Roman period, a time of great upheaval in Egypt's history when Greek culture began to significantly influence the region. The coffin, made of finely carved limestone and measuring approximately 3.3 feet in length, was intricately decorated and depicted a woman dressed in Roman-style attire, complete with a long cloak, headscarf, bracelets, necklace, and shoes. Additionally, 2 gemstones were placed in the eye sockets of the coffin, creating the illusion that the mummy's eyes were still open, a unique feature in the burial customs of ancient Egyptians. Zahi Hawass, Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities in Egypt, suggested that this mummy belonged to a woman, possibly young or of small stature. This discovery adds to the mystery of her life during the Greco-Roman period, a time marked by a blending of Egyptian and Greek cultures. The excavation also unearthed many valuable artifacts, including coins, glass vials, pottery, masks, and a piece of gold featuring depictions of the 4 sons of the god Horus, an important deity in ancient Egyptian beliefs. The ancient Egyptians believed that the 4 sons of Horus were responsible for protecting key organs in the body of the mummy, such as the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines. It is known that the Bahariya Oasis is not the first place where mummies have been discovered. In 1996, archaeologists found 17 tombs containing 254 mummies in this region, further solidifying its significance as a burial site in ancient Egypt. This discovery also serves as a reminder of the Greco-Roman era in Egypt, which began with the conquest of Alexander the Great in 332 BCE. While Alexander was the king of Macedonia, his rule over Egypt can be seen as the rule of the Greeks for 2 main reasons. Firstly, the Macedonians were essentially Greek, with 90% of their vocabulary derived from Greek, and secondly, most of the officials governing Egypt were Greek, and Egypt was heavily influenced by Greek culture under Alexander. After Alexander's death in 323 BCE, his empire quickly collapsed, and Egypt returned to the control of its own people. Therefore, I believe that this recent discovery of the mummy serves as a vivid testament to the cultural and religious exchanges between civilizations, and it helps us better understand the lives of ancient Egyptians during such a crucial period in history. 2,000-year-old treasure at an ancient fortress. In a research report published in the journal Ancient Civilizations from Scythia to Siberia, the team of authors revealed that they had found more than 200 coins, mostly made of bronze, along with countless pieces of jewelry made of gold, silver, and bronze, as well as glass vases, inside an ancient fortress in the Artesian settlement of Crimea. Covering an area of 1.3 hectares, Artesian was a settlement with its own cemetery, belonging to the Bosporan kingdom. At that time, the fate of the kingdom was torn by a dispute between 2 brothers, Mithridates VIII, who sought independence from Rome, and his brother Cotys I, who supported the kingdom remaining a client state of the growing empire. Rome sent an army to assist Cotys, allowing him to take control of the Bosporan capital and burn settlements under Mithridates' control, including Artesian. The residents gathered in the fortress to protect themselves from the Roman invasion, but researcher Nikolai Vinokurov, a professor at Moscow State Pedagogical University, believes that they anticipated their tragic end. He stated, "We believe that these treasures were part of a sacrificial ritual for a funeral. Clearly, they knew they would die soon after." What is particularly intriguing is that each buried treasure contained exactly 55 coins minted by Mithridates VIII. This could either be a mere coincidence or perhaps the same amount of money paid by those supporting Mithridates to the owners of the tombs. It is known that Vinokurov's research team has been studying Artesian since 1989, and they have discovered that the residents of this settlement followed a distinctly Greek culture, despite their ethnically mixed background. The Greeks had established colonies in the Black Sea region centuries earlier, intermarrying with the Crimeans. The customs and artistic forms they introduced seem to have become deeply ingrained over generations, despite the nearly 621 miles distance from Greece. Greek influence is clearly visible in the treasures buried by the Artesian people. For example, a silver brooch depicting Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, and gold rings with gemstone faces featuring 2 other Greek gods, Nemesis and Tyche, were found. When archaeologists excavated other parts of the burned area, they uncovered more evidence of a Greek-style way of life. All of this was destroyed by the Romans, but later rebuilt by Codicimaiandide after being installed as king by Rome. However, the discovery of the treasures from the earlier residents has yet to be fully explored, and it stands as a testament to their desperate resistance against the growing power of Rome. The 7 shocking archaeological discoveries in places no one could imagine that left researchers stunned. The mummy of the female singer in the stunning sarcophagus and her tragic fate. A long time ago, a woman living in Thebes, Egypt, was mummified and placed inside a beautiful sarcophagus. For 2,700 years, her mummy remained undisturbed until the sarcophagus was destroyed in Brazil. The woman inside the sarcophagus was an important member of Egyptian society. Exquisite, beautiful honorary items were placed inside the sarcophagus to accompany her on her journey to the afterlife. Therefore, it was unfortunate that her sarcophagus was destroyed, as it was an extremely rare ancient artifact. The 2,700-year-old mummy I'm referring to is named Shah-Amun-Ensu. During her lifetime, Shah-Amun-Ensu was a temple singer and a priestess in ancient Egypt during the 22nd dynasty, ruled by Pharaoh Shishak Sheshankh I. There is very little information about Shah-Amun-Ensu, aside from hieroglyphic inscriptions on her sarcophagus. Fortunately, scientists were able to study the sarcophagus and conduct some analyses before it was destroyed. According to the hieroglyphs, Shah-Amun-Ensu was a Heset, meaning a singer. One inscription on her sarcophagus reveals that she was the daughter of a singer at the Temple of Amun. As I understand it, members of the Heset were temple singers and priestesses at the Temple of Amun. They held the important responsibility of performing rituals for the gods and goddesses. During rituals and festivals, Shah-Amun-Ensu performed ceremonial functions and sang hymns to honor the god Amun. It is unknown when, where, or by whom the sarcophagus of Shah-Amun-Ensu was excavated. We only know that her sarcophagus was found somewhere near Thebes, though the exact location cannot be determined. There is also no information about Shah-Amun-Ensu's family, but one inscription on the sarcophagus revealed that she had an adopted daughter. What we do know is that Emperor Pedro II of Brazil visited Egypt in 1875 and was presented with the beautiful sarcophagus containing the intact mummy of Shah-Amun-Ensu as a gift by the Egyptian king Ismail Pasha. As someone deeply interested in the history and culture of ancient Egypt, Emperor Pedro II brought the sarcophagus to the São Cristóvão Palace, where it was displayed until 1889. After leaving Egypt for the São Cristóvão Palace in Brazil, the ancient temple singer's sarcophagus first encountered trouble during a storm. The sarcophagus was blown off its display shelf by the wind. It fell and crashed into a window of Emperor Pedro II's office. The sarcophagus was later repaired, but it could never be fully restored to its original state. It was then moved from the Emperor's Palace to the National Museum of Rio de Janeiro, where it was displayed and studied for many years. Because Shah-Amun-Ensu's sarcophagus was never opened, scientists could only study the mummy inside using X-ray technology. According to this analysis, experts determined that the female singer died at about 50 years old, though the cause of death remains unclear. However, her body seemed to be well preserved, with no signs of trauma or injury, suggesting that Shah-Amun-Ensu passed away from natural causes. Shah-Amun-Ensu had intact teeth. Her throat was covered with a layer of resin to protect her throat, ensuring she could continue singing hymns in the afterlife. Among the honorary artifacts of Shah-Amun-Ensu was a beautiful heart-shaped scarab made of green stone, engraved with her name. But sadly, on September 2, 2018, a massive fire destroyed the National Museum of Rio de Janeiro. The sarcophagus, along with the mummy of the mysterious ancient female singer and all of her gold artifacts, were consumed by the flames. For historians, archaeologists, and those interested in the history of ancient Egypt, it was a sad and regrettable day. Everything related to Shah-Amun-Ensu was lost, and her life may forever remain an ancient mystery that we cannot fully unravel. The 8 strange mummies in a cave and unsolved mysteries. In 1991, during an exploration of a mysterious cave called Asi al-Hadath in Lebanon, archaeologists discovered a series of highly unique mummies dating back to the medieval period. This was a remarkable discovery, and researchers believe that the burials of these mummies occurred around the year 1283 AD. They belonged to the Maronite people, an ancient religious community in Lebanon. What makes this discovery even more special is that these are the first and possibly the only mummies ever found in Lebanon. The Asi al-Hadath cave, located in the Hadath el-Gibbet area, appears to have once been an ideal living space in the past. Near the cave is an artificial reservoir, providing favorable conditions for habitation and settlement. Additionally, the cave features two large chambers, which may have been used as living spaces for ancient inhabitants. Unlike other famous discoveries, such as the Egyptian mummies, the mummies in this cave were naturally preserved, making them appear as if they had just fallen into a deep sleep, retaining a lifelike appearance. The preservation of the bodies was remarkable. Archaeologists believe that the cave's special conditions, such as low humidity and few organisms capable of destroying the remains, facilitated the natural mummification process. The most special story in this discovery is the mummy of a 4-month-old girl named Yasmin. The little girl was buried with great care, dressed in beautiful clothing, including 3 dresses in shades of blue and beige, along with earrings and a necklace made of glass beads, precious jewelry that her mother must have given her. Near Yasmin's remains were other items such as laurel leaves, almonds, walnuts, garlic skins, and onions, showing the distinctive burial practices of the Maronite community at the time. In addition to Yasmin, 7 other skeletons were discovered in the same area, including 4 children and 3 adults. This has led researchers to wonder about the lives and deaths of these individuals. After thorough examination, scientists confirmed that the mummies had been naturally mummified, not by human intervention. The artifacts found were also impressive, such as intricately woven garments and wooden arrows characteristic of the period. From this, a major question arises. Why did all of these people die together in the cave, and how did they die? According to researchers, the Crusades around that time might provide an answer. The city of Tripoli, not far from the cave, was occupied during this period, and many believe that the Maronites in the cave may have fled from invading armies, only to encounter a deadly disaster. However, this is just a theory, and the exact cause of their deaths remains an unsolved mystery. The mummies and artifacts found in the Asi al-Hadath cave serve as a vivid testament to a past era, a mysterious story about the lives and deaths of the ancient Maronite people. While the mystery has not been fully solved, this discovery has shed light on many aspects of the Maronite community's way of life, beliefs, and culture during the medieval period, making this archaeological site one of the most important discoveries in Lebanon. The skeleton of a girl with 2 bird skulls in her mouth. Specifically, Professor Waldemar Chmielewski was the first to uncover the skeleton in the Tunel Wielki cave in southern Poland between 1967 and 1968. However, he chose not to publish this discovery at the time, leading the skeleton to fall into obscurity until Dr. Kott and researchers at Warsaw resumed their investigation. Thanks to radiocarbon dating methods, the researchers identified the skeleton as belonging to a young girl, approximately 10 to 12 years old when she passed away, and dating from the mid-18th to early 19th century. This result also indicated that the girl showed signs of malnutrition and stunted growth. What's particularly interesting is that, besides the girl's bones, no artifacts or traces were found to indicate the cause of her death. It is known that burying individuals in shallow graves in caves was a burial practice that existed at least 4,000 years ago. However, Europe stopped burying the dead in caves during the Middle Ages. Therefore, finding this girl in the Tunel Wielki cave is highly unusual and exceedingly rare. In a report published in the Prehistorische Zeitschrift on May 29th of last year, archaeologists stated that this is an extraordinary and unique discovery in Europe. This has further fueled the mystery surrounding the meaning of her burial. Moreover, DNA tests later revealed that the girl might have been of Finnish or Karelia origin, areas that today belong to Russia and Finland. From this, researchers speculated that she could have accompanied the Finnish army during its invasion of Poland under King Carl Gustaf of Sweden in the mid-17th century. Swedish soldiers, many of whom were from Finland and Karelia, often traveled with their families during military campaigns. Additionally, historical records show that the Karelia people believed the dead in the forest should be buried right there, which might explain why the girl was buried in a cave deep in the forest. However, experts have yet to explain why the girl was buried with bird skulls in her mouth. It is known that in Slavic mythology, birds such as the finch or raven were often seen as the souls of the deceased, with the ability to bring life or death to a body, and the soul of the deceased could live on in their former body. Many other legends suggest that birds are the souls of fallen individuals, or that they could bring about a cycle of reincarnation. Other cultures also view birds as symbols of freedom, and bird skulls symbolize the freedom of the soul upon death. Could it be that the girl's family hoped that the bird skulls would bring her back to life? Or were they trying to free the soul of the deceased? These are questions that researchers are still trying to answer. The vampire grave in Bulgaria. Recently, an archaeological discovery that has caused a stir was made at the border region between Bulgaria and Greece when the famous archaeologist Nikolai Ovcharov unearthed a vampire skeleton from the 13th century. The skeleton is believed to be that of a man, around 40 to 50 years old, who was buried with a special ritual to prevent the unexplained return of the dead from the afterlife. This has provided an intriguing glimpse into ancient beliefs and peculiar burial customs in the medieval period. The discovery was made on October 9th when Ovcharov was excavating in the ancient city of Perperikon in southern Bulgaria, which was once the center of the Thracian people over 5,000 years ago. Here, archaeologists discovered a skeleton pierced through the chest by an iron rod weighing around 2.2 pounds, originating from a plow. Part of the left leg was disjointed and placed separately from the skeleton. It is believed that this was done to prevent the vampire from escaping the grave. According to Ovcharov's research, similar rituals were often applied to those who died under unusual circumstances, such as suicide, or those thought to have the ability to return from the dead. This discovery is not the first of its kind in the Bulgaria-Greece border region. The director of the National History Museum in Sofia, Bojidar Dimitrov, stated that at least 100 vampire skeletons have been discovered in the area. One notable discovery occurred in 2012, when the skeleton of a vampire twin was unearthed in the city of Sozopol, near Perperikon. These two skeletons were buried with an incredibly special ritual. The first skeleton was that of a man, with both feet tied together and an iron rod thrust through the chest. The second skeleton was believed to belong to a notorious 13th century pirate named Krivich. Instead of the iron rod, a sharp stone was driven through his chest, further increasing the mystery and intrigue of these discoveries. Additionally, archaeologists found that sometimes animals such as cats or chickens were buried alongside the dead. This suggests a belief that these animals would watch over the vampires and protect the living from the return of the spirits of the deceased. These findings not only provide a fascinating look into the worldviews and beliefs of ancient people, but also raise many questions about how ancient cultures dealt with death and the dangers from the world of spirits. Is it possible that the belief in vampires was grounded in truth, or was it merely part of the haunting legends of history? This question remains difficult to answer, doesn't it? Mass grave, containing 9 skeletons found in backyard. On February 28, 2014, a family in Sri Lanka made an unexpected discovery of a mass grave containing 9 skeletons behind their house in the town of Puthakudiri Ripu, Mullaitivu district. This shocking discovery came at a time when Sri Lanka was facing international criticism related to war crimes cases. According to police spokesperson Ajith Rohana, forensic experts in the area are collecting and analyzing the remains to determine the origin and cause of death of these victims. The mass grave became even more significant in the context of ongoing political and legal tensions surrounding the civil war between the Sri Lankan government and the Tamil Tiger rebels. Such mass grave discoveries linked to this war are not uncommon and have garnered significant international attention. The issue was immediately brought up at a session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, UNHRC, held in Geneva, Switzerland. Sri Lanka faced harsh criticism from the United States and other countries regarding allegations of war crimes, particularly the killing of civilians. Earlier, in December 2013, another mass grave was discovered in Mannar district, containing the remains of victims from the war between the government and the Tamil Tigers. This war, which lasted for several years, resulted in heavy losses for both sides, with thousands of civilians killed throughout the conflict. Additionally, in 2014, another mass grave was discovered in Matale district, related to the anti-government uprising between 1987 and 1990. A total of 154 skeletons were unearthed there. At the time of the discovery, the remains were sent for examination and analysis to identify the victims, but the results have never been released. Regardless, the story of this mass grave, along with other similar findings, is not only a part of Sri Lanka's painful history, but also a lesson for the international community about the brutality of war and its long-lasting consequences. Let these discoveries serve as motivation for us to continue fighting for justice, peace, and truth in order to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. Ancient Mayan drawings found on kitchen wall. On an ordinary day, while a family in Guatemala was preparing to renovate their old kitchen, they unexpectedly uncovered a historical treasure: ancient drawings on the wall dating back centuries, belonging to the great Mayan civilization. The process of removing the long-adhered layers of plaster from the kitchen wall inadvertently revealed these strange and vibrant drawings, which even the researchers couldn't stop admiring. When scientists arrived to study the findings, they were amazed at how well-preserved the artwork remained, despite having been forgotten and hidden in the wall for centuries. The preservation is believed to be due to the protective layers of plaster, which shielded the drawings from the ravages of time. The Mayan civilization, which existed thousands of years before the Spanish colonization of the Americas, once covered a vast area, including what are now Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, and western El Salvador. From around 2600 BCE to 900 CE, the Maya built a brilliant civilization, with remarkable achievements in art, science, and architecture. Monumental structures like pyramids and ancient cities are testament to their advanced development. Notably, the Maya also created a full and accurate writing system, making their culture one of the oldest and most advanced in human history. The drawings discovered by the family are not mere decorative patterns, but rather, they carry the traces of a unique civilization. Researchers are currently studying the drawings and attempting to understand why they were painted on the walls of this house. It's possible that the house was not originally a typical dwelling, but served a special function for rituals, religious purposes, or some other significant reason. These drawings may have been part of a sacred space where the ancient Maya preserved symbols for worshiping deities, conducting rituals, or even telling historical stories. This discovery has sparked even more curiosity among researchers about the unresolved mysteries of the Mayan culture. The Maya left their mark not only in art, but also in science, with incredibly accurate discoveries about the universe and natural laws. These drawings could be one of the key pieces in understanding their way of life, as well as the spiritual values the Maya preserved for thousands of years. While much of Mayan civilization may seem to have faded over time, discoveries like this prove that their mysteries are still alive, waiting for us to uncover and decode them. Treasure full of gold jewelry, found in ancient tomb. On August 24, 2024, Ancient Origins reported that a team of archaeologists discovered a treasure trove of ancient artifacts in the tomb of a Thracian warrior in the village of Kapitan Petko Voivoda, near Topolovgrad, Bulgaria. The treasure includes a gold necklace, a glittering gold crown, a gold ring, and even a dagger inlaid with gold and semi-precious stones, all buried alongside the remains of a Roman-era warrior, dating back to the early 1st century AD. The Topolovgrad authorities recently shared this exciting news on their Facebook page, noting that the excavation was conducted by the same team as last year. The team also uncovered several weapons and a breastplate, all indicating that this warrior was not an ordinary soldier, but rather a knight from a wealthy and powerful family. Notably, the presence of a horse buried next to the remains further enriches this story. The Thracian warriors were among the most formidable and distinctive armies of the ancient world, recognized for their unique weapons, combat style, and significant contributions to the military history of the Balkans and surrounding regions. The Thracians inhabited areas that now include Bulgaria, Romania, northern Greece, and parts of Turkey. Their warrior culture left a lasting impact on the armies of neighboring civilizations, such as Greece, Persia, and Rome, highlighting their importance in the context of ancient military history. The current excavation is being directed by Daniela Agre from the National Institute of Archaeology with the museum at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. The team discovered the treasure on the second day of the excavation. Among the treasures unearthed was a remarkable hunting knife with a handle inlaid with gemstones and shaped like a hunting dog. Experts even stated that some of the artifacts are unlike anything previously found in Bulgaria. Therefore, they announced that once the excavation process is complete, the artifacts will be transferred to and preserved at the History Museum in Topolovgrad. If you have the chance, you can visit and admire this priceless treasure. The 8 most mysterious and terrifying mass graves ever discovered that frightened scientists. the mass grave of 227 sacrificed children. Killed in a brutal sacrificial ritual over 1,400 years ago, the remains of 227 children, aged 4 to 14, were recently discovered in a mass grave at Pampa La Cruz, Peru. This is considered one of the largest child sacrifice rituals ever recorded in human history. Archaeologists and historians believe these children were forced to participate in the Chimu Empire's religious ceremonies intended to prevent natural disasters linked to a phenomenon called El Niño, which the religious leaders of the society believed could bring salvation to the community. The Chimu Empire, which existed long before the Inca civilization, had developed a society with complex beliefs and mysterious religious rituals. The government and religious leaders of the time organized large-scale sacrifices in an attempt to appease the gods, particularly during times when they believed nature was rebelling, causing famine and disasters. This discovery is not the first of its kind in the Pampa La Cruz region, which has previously recorded mass child slaughter events. In June 2018, archaeologists found the remains of 56 children and 140 llamas, also part of similar sacrificial rituals. However, this discovery surpasses the previous ones, containing a terrifying number of victims, 227 children sacrificed at once. Most of the remains were well preserved, with some still showing traces of skin, hair, and even sparkling silver earrings, adding to the eerie and tragic nature of the massacre. This mass grave is not just a trace of one of the most horrifying sacrificial rituals in history, but also a reminder of the brutality that ancient civilizations could commit under the guise of religion and the protection of supernatural forces. Even after 1,400 years, these innocent children continue to stand as witnesses to a dark era, where the death of numerous children was seen as a way to calm the wrath of nature. Looking at these images, what do you think? As for me, I feel both terrified and deeply sorrowful for those innocent children. A mass grave with 1,000 skeletons piled together. In March 2024, a recent archaeological discovery in Nuremberg, southern Germany, shocked both the scientific community and the public when archaeologists uncovered a massive mass grave containing up to 1,000 victims of the plague, one of the deadliest disasters in human history. Excavations, carried out in an area set for construction, revealed 8 large pits, each containing hundreds of skeletons of adults, children, and infants, dating from the late 15th century to the early 17th century. This is not only a historic discovery, but it also provides deep insights into life and death during Europe's dark period. The plague claimed the lives of millions, and Nuremberg was no exception. The city suffered a series of severe plague outbreaks from 1533 to 1634, during which approximately 30,000 people died from the dreaded disease. In an effort to curb the spread of the plague, the city's authorities ordered the burial of bodies in mass graves outside churchyards, creating vast cemeteries filled with innocent victims. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is that archaeologists found not only bones, but also fragments of pottery and clearly dated coins. Specifically, the pottery found in 2 of the 3 excavated pits dates back to the time of the plague outbreaks between 1622 and 1634, while the coins are dated to 1619. This is clear evidence linking the discovered objects with the plague waves that ravaged Nuremberg, offering a realistic view of the hardships faced by the city's residents during this period. Melanie Langbein, a heritage conservation expert in Nuremberg, shared that this discovery is significant not only for the city but for the entire region. Langbein stated, "A discovery like this has never happened before, and no one thought this could occur. This site is of tremendous importance to the city of Nuremberg. This reflects the honoring and remembrance of historical disasters, helping us better understand the development of societies during difficult times." Currently, the excavations are still ongoing, and archaeologists predict the number of victims may exceed 1,500. If confirmed, this would likely be the largest mass grave ever excavated in Europe. A 2,000-year-old tomb, containing 50 skeletons. In the fall of 2021, during the expansion of the Shinoye Cemetery in Krasnoyarsk, archaeologists unexpectedly discovered a monumental tomb dating back 2,000 years, belonging to an unknown Scythian-like culture. The discovery occurred when an excavator leveled a mound in the cemetery area, which had been in use since the 19th century. It was during this process that the 2,000-year-old tomb was uncovered. However, the excavation caused damage to the top of the tomb, leading to the loss of several artifacts. Despite this, the excavation team, led by Dr. Dmitry Vinogradov from Siberian Federal University, continued their work last summer, gathering important data from the remaining items. Through tests and analyses, experts confirmed that before being partially destroyed, the tomb had a diameter of up to 98 feet and was lined with wooden walls and birch bark mats, forming a unique box-like tomb structure. Upon excavation, the team discovered a range of valuable artifacts such as knives, mirrors, needles, ceramic vessels used for eating and drinking, along with battle axes and small copper daggers, objects typically buried with the deceased for their journey to the afterlife. Particularly noteworthy was a piece of copper engraved with a deer image, a motif commonly found in Scythian art, indicating the culture's connection to nature and beliefs. Dr. Vinogradov stated that with around 50 skeletons found in the tomb, it is likely a family tomb used by multiple generations for joint burials. The unusual color of the soil in the mound suggests that the site was exposed to high temperatures, leading archaeologists to hypothesize that once the tomb was filled with remains and no space was left, it was sealed and cremated as part of a ritual to close the tomb's use cycle in the Scythian culture of Siberia at that time. 28. Skeletons in a mass grave in Sudan. Recently, a shocking discovery was announced in Sudan when the bodies of dozens of military officers involved in the 1990 coup against former President Omar al-Bashir were found in a mass grave. This is the second mass grave discovered in the 3 decades since Bashir came to power in 1989. This discovery is not only an archaeological investigation, but also a significant step toward uncovering the crimes committed by Bashir's regime throughout his rule. The event took place in the city of Omdurman as part of an investigation into misconduct and human rights violations under Bashir's leadership. According to prosecutor Teglsir al-Hiber, the remains were found during an excavation, following 3 weeks of strenuous search by 22 experts from various fields. They uncovered at least 28 bodies, and initial signs suggest these were military officers who were captured and killed during the coup attempt in April 1990, aimed at overthrowing Bashir and his allies. This mass grave recalls a dark chapter in Sudan's history, when power and human lives were treated with disregard. Bashir's regime, with its brutal and autocratic actions, caused immense suffering and loss for thousands of Sudanese people. Not only were the coup officers killed, but millions of civilians also became victims in the wars and genocide in Darfur. The Sudanese government at the time reported that 55 soldiers drowned when their boat capsized while crossing a river. However, opposition groups have accused Bashir of deliberately murdering these soldiers to prevent an uprising, and in reality, the number of those killed may have exceeded 100. A mass grave, containing about 80 skeletons in Peru. At the archaeological site of Pachacamac, near Lima, Peru, a recent archaeological discovery has opened new doors to understanding the ancient Ichma civilization. Specifically, a team of archaeologists from the Free University of Brussels, Belgium, discovered the largest mass grave at this site, containing about 80 well-preserved and carefully embalmed skeletons. The cloth surrounding the bones suggests that this was a special ritual, reflecting the Ichma people's views on death and the journey to the afterlife. Notably, 2 of the skeletons were found in a fetal position, a burial practice characteristic of the Ichma civilization, which existed in South America thousands of years ago. These skeletons are positioned in a way that could symbolize rebirth, an important belief in this ancient culture. Although no written records were left behind, through the artifacts and traces found in the grave, archaeologists have gathered valuable information that sheds light on many aspects of Ichma culture. The skeletons found in the grave are mostly those of pilgrims, who may have died from illness. However, some child skeletons were also found, leading archaeologists to speculate that these children may have been sacrificed to pray for the well-being of the community or the deities. This is a rather heartbreaking reality, but reflects the deep religious beliefs of the Ichma people toward the divine world and the sacred rituals they performed. Additionally, during the excavation, archaeologists discovered several special artifacts, such as a wooden head and clay masks, believed to be symbolic items that help the deceased pass through the heavenly gates and reach paradise. While the Ichma did not leave written records, these artworks give us insight into their spiritual beliefs and worldview, where death was not seen as an end, but a transition into another world. Pachacamac was not only an important archaeological site, but also the religious center of the Ichma people for nearly 2 millennia. The city housed large temples and was a central hub for worshipping deities throughout the region. These new findings, although surprising, serve as evidence of a highly influential and far-reaching civilization, with beliefs and customs that remain largely unexplained to this day. The 60 mummies in 2 6-meter-deep ancient tombs. Recently, Spanish researchers announced an impressive archaeological discovery related to 2 tombs containing around 60 mummies located in the city of Luxor, Egypt. These tombs were built within the burial complex of Amenhotep Hui, the vizier during the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, around 1390 to 1352 BCE, from Egypt's 18th dynasty. This is one of the most important discoveries of the past year, offering deep insights into a sacred cemetery constructed around one of the most powerful figures of ancient Egypt. According to Francisco J. Martin, director of the Madrid Institute for the Study of Ancient Egypt and the leader of the excavation project, the 2 tombs are about 20 feet deep and are directly connected to the main tomb of Amenhotep Hui. Notably, archaeologists discovered several mummies in relatively well-preserved conditions, shedding light on important burial practices in ancient Egypt. Anthropologists have assessed that these mummies belong to about 60 individuals, mostly people of high social rank. This indicates that this burial site was not only the resting place of Vizier Amenhotep Hui, but also a cemetery for those closely associated with him, particularly senior priests from the Karnak temple dedicated to the god Amun. A noteworthy feature is the architectural differences between these 2 tombs and the main tomb. The 2 tombs lack the inscriptions seen in Amenhotep Hui's tomb, which may reflect distinctions in burial practices between different social classes. Like many graves of lower social classes, these tombs lack elaborate decorative details. This is a clear indication that, although these individuals were of high status in society, not everyone was afforded the same honors and respect as the vizier. Over the past 15 years of excavation, the Amenhotep Hui project has uncovered more than 200 complete mummies, along with valuable artifacts. One of the notable items is exquisitely decorated coffins, featuring images of the god Amun, one of the most important deities in ancient Egyptian belief. These artifacts are now displayed at the Luxor Museum, attracting the attention of visitors and researchers alike. If you have the opportunity, you may want to visit to witness these findings in person. Mass grave containing 500 women and children. A chilling archaeological discovery has recently been made at one of the notorious Nazi concentration camps, Gulag 191, located in the southwest of Russia near the Ukrainian border. Here, archaeologists uncovered a mass grave containing the remains of over 500 women and children, all victims of one of the bloodiest chapters of World War II. Gulag 191 was a concentration camp built to imprison ethnic groups deemed enemies by the Nazis, and it witnessed the deaths of approximately 8,500 people. A large portion of these victims were women and children, vulnerable individuals who could not escape the brutality of war. According to Captain Mikhail Segadin, head of the excavation, the bones found primarily belonged to the younger victims, many of whom had gunshot wounds and broken bones. Sadly, no valuable items were found, except for a damaged cigarette box, proving that these were innocent people who were abandoned and forgotten. These remains were found just beneath the surface in mass burial pits, where the victims had been hastily buried with little respect. Viktor Strelkin, a local historian, shared that these pits lay just beneath the feet of the living, sometimes exposing the remains or partially covering them with earth. But over time, the bones began to reappear as a testament to the unforgivable cruelty. This event is not only a significant archaeological discovery, but also a stark reminder of the suffering caused by war and the brutality that humans can inflict upon each other. The remains found serve as a vivid testament to a bloody past and as a reminder of the value of peace and the necessity to protect human rights to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated in history. Mass grave of 800 human remains at an elevation of 16,499 feet. Rupkund Lake, now known as Skeleton Lake, is a glacial lake in the state of Uttarakhand, India. hidden within the Thracian mountain range and containing the secret of a mass grave with hundreds of human skeletons lying beneath its waters. The lake is located at the bottom of a small valley in the Himalayas at an elevation of approximately 16,499 feet. The lake is very shallow, with a maximum depth of about 6.5 feet. For most of the year, the lake is covered by a blanket of snow and ice from the surrounding glaciers. However, every May, when the ice melts and the lake's water level recedes, the true nature of the site is revealed. This location, known for its picturesque, majestic scenery, is a popular destination for adventurous tourists who are eager to explore and curious to see the mass grave. In 1942, when forest rangers from northern India reached Rupkund Lake during the melting season, they stumbled upon over 200 human skeletons at one corner of the lake bed. Most of these skeletons were well preserved. Further investigation revealed that there were over 800 skeletons of varying sizes within Rupkund Lake. These skeletons are ancient. The flesh, hair, and bones were preserved in the dry, cold air, so they remained mostly intact, but no one has been able to determine where they came from or how long they have been there. Nor has anyone been able to explain what caused more than 800 people to die at this remote location. Many theories have been proposed, including disease, landslides, or even a mass suicide ritual. Despite decades of research, the mysteries of Skeleton Lake remain unresolved. According to local people living at the base of the Himalayas, there are many mystical legends surrounding this giant skeleton lake. One such legend tells of an ancient king from Kanaji, who, with his queen, children, and attendants, went up the Himalayas to hold a grand feast. The king's lavish celebration offended the goddess Nanda Devi, as the summit of the Himalayas is sacred and not meant for indulgence. In her anger at the king's sacrilege, the goddess is said to have summoned a massive hailstorm that struck down the king's party. Another theory suggests that these are the remains of Japanese soldiers who died while attempting to escape to India during wartime. The British government quickly formed a group of investigators to determine the truth behind the skeletons. However, after investigating, they concluded that these remains were not those of Japanese soldiers, as they predate the war by centuries. Many scholars and British investigators believe the skeletons belong to General Zorawar Singh of Kashmir in the Indian subcontinent and his troops. General Zorawar Singh's army is thought to have gotten lost and perished in the Himalayas while returning from the Tibet War of 1841. However, radiocarbon dating of the bones in the 1960s disproved this theory. The mystery of these thousand-year-old human skeletons intrigued scientists, leading them to seek answers. In 2003, scientists from the Department of Archaeology at Deccan College, India, collaborated with German researchers and the National Geographic Channel to conduct filming and research at Skeleton Lake. In 2007, using modern technology, scientists reached a conclusion, and the mysteries of Skeleton Lake began to unfold. Upon examining the skeletons closely, scientists discovered several glass bracelets, rings, leather shoes, and bamboo staffs, but no military weapons. Furthermore, when examining the bodies at the site, researchers found deep cracks at the tops of the skulls. These fatal wounds were not caused by landslides or snow avalanches, but rather by blunt objects, possibly something spherical like a hailstone. These wounds were located on the victims' heads. DNA testing revealed that all the victims died from fatal blows to the back of their heads, likely caused by large hailstones. The researchers hypothesized that a massive hailstorm, with speeds possibly exceeding 100 mph, struck suddenly, leaving the people with no time to seek shelter, resulting in their deaths. Some of the victims survived initially, but later succumbed to hunger and cold. The bones, preserved by the snow and ice at the lake bed, have remained intact for over 1,000 years. Today, this is considered the most reasonable explanation. But the question remains, who were these 800 individuals, and why did they venture into such a perilous area, only to meet their end in a violent hailstorm? In a study of 31 skeletons, scientists found that the skulls of these individuals had small bony protrusions on their foreheads. These characteristics are unique to people from the Maharashtra region of southern central India. DNA analysis showed that 3 of the 31 skeletons shared an unusual genetic mutation not found anywhere else in the world, except among a specific migrant group from Maharashtra. This suggested that these 3 individuals were from the same family. Moreover, in the 800 skeletons discovered in the lake, scientists found an interesting pattern. The skeletons were divided into 2 groups, one group of smaller stature and another of much taller individuals. These skeletons date back to around 850 CE, 50 CE, over 1,000 years ago. The final conclusion is that the 800 individuals in Rupkund Lake were Indian pilgrims who had traveled to the lake. The 8 most shocking and mysterious discoveries in ancient tombs that stunned archaeology world. Wine cups, made from human skulls in the tombs of the Huns. During excavations in Mongolia and Xinjiang, China, in the 1920s, experts discovered several ancient tombs of the Huns. Among their surprising, even eerie findings were items that left them astounded. The Huns were a powerful, fierce, and warlike nomadic tribe from the north. They often disturbed the borders of Chinese dynasties, raiding properties, land, crops, and even taking people. As a result, even Emperor Qin Shi Huang and several subsequent dynasties spent a great deal of money, manpower, and time constructing the Great Wall of China to prevent Hun invasions. In these near-intact tombs of the Huns, experts found many precious artifacts, including gold, silver, and jewels, along with 68 large braids of hair, which made the archaeologists gasp in amazement. After tests and analysis, experts speculated that these belonged to women who were likely victims of sacrifice. Furthermore, these women were taken by the Huns from neighboring tribes. Most of the victims were Han Chinese or from Western regions, as the Huns' customs and culture prevented them from using women from their own tribe for sacrifices. Among the artifacts, one item particularly horrified the researchers: wine cups made from human skulls. While experts already knew the Huns were fierce and enjoyed drinking, they never expected them to use human skulls as drinking cups. As a result, researchers searched historical records in the historical records of the Huns to find references to this practice. After some effort, they found that after defeating their old enemy, the Yuezhi, the Huns used the skull of the Yuezhi king as a wine goblet. This custom was then continued by Hun warriors for many years. In every battle, when the Huns defeated and killed their enemies, they would decapitate them without hesitation. They used their enemies' heads as drinking cups, considering them trophies of war. It's truly barbaric, isn't it? The woman's body in the ancient tomb had creepy marks. On Halloween 2024, archaeologists revealed new details about how an actual vampire spent their final moments. The woman, known as the vampire, died approximately 350 years ago and was discovered in 2022 in an ancient cemetery in Pień, Poland. The woman's body was named Zosia by the researchers. Reconstruction images show that the 18-year-old girl had pale skin, blue eyes, short hair, and a protruding fang. She was also buried with a silk cap, indicating she belonged to the noble class. However, her high status could not save her from being accused of being a demon. Among the approximately 100 skeletons in the cemetery, only Zosia's body had a sickle placed across her neck and a lock fastened tightly onto her toe. Professor Dariusz Polinsky, who led the study, shared with Daily Mail, "It can be assumed that for some reason, those who buried her feared she would come back to life from the grave. Perhaps they believed she was a vampire." Experts believe that the sickle and large lock were a double protective measure for the villagers. In case the corpse could rise from the grave, the sickle would sever her head or injure her neck if she tried to sit up. X-ray scans of Zosia's bones, conducted by Dr. Heather Edgar from the University of New Mexico, revealed an abnormality in her sternum, suggesting she may have had a deformity that caused pain, which led people to view her as sinister and suspect her of being a vampire. At that time, a war between Sweden and Poland was ongoing, and researchers believe Zosia may have been Swedish and seen as an unfortunate soul. About 30 of the 100 graves found showed signs of being tied up, which led people to call the site the Vampire Field. Polinsky mentioned that this cemetery was reserved for those excluded from the community, and all the graves lacked headstones or records of identity. According to Smithsonian Magazine, Eastern Europeans began fearing vampires in the 11th century, believing some dead would claw their way out of the grave to rise as blood-sucking creatures terrorizing the living. By the 17th century, unusual burial rituals became common throughout Poland to deal with reports of vampire appearances, and the next discovery in an ancient tomb may serve as clear evidence of this. Ancient tomb containing vampires and mysterious liquid. In 2013, an excavation in Gliwice, Poland, uncovered an ancient cemetery containing chilling mysteries about burial customs from the past. Specifically, construction workers accidentally discovered graves with bodies buried in strange positions. These corpses were not placed in typical postures. Instead, their skulls were positioned between their knees, a burial practice unlike any ritual commonly seen. Dating results indicated that these individuals died in the 15th to 16th centuries, a period when fear of supernatural creatures, especially vampires, was rampant in European minds. Jacek Pierzak, an archaeologist involved in the excavation, stated, "This burial method wasn't a mistake, but a way to prevent the dead from rising and becoming vampires, harming the living. These graves could belong to people suspected of being vampires, the blood-sucking monsters that terrified ancient Polish people. To prevent them from rising, the bodies were decapitated and buried in a horrifying manner." Additionally, in 2018, another archaeological discovery made waves in Alexandria, Egypt. Experts uncovered a black granite sarcophagus inside an ancient tomb, and immediately, rumors spread about a deadly curse. Some feared that opening the sarcophagus would awaken the curse and bring about horrific events. However, archaeologists decided to open it and discovered 3 skeletons inside, all immersed in a mysterious red liquid. Although tests showed that these remains belonged to individuals who lived in the area after 332 BC, the mystery of the red liquid piqued the curiosity of thousands. Over 1,500 people signed a petition on change.org requesting to try the liquid, believing it would grant power from the dead. However, experts warned that drinking the liquid could be very dangerous. Aside from being unlikely to provide any strength, consuming the liquid could lead to infectious diseases, bacteria, or dangerous viruses. In connection with these discoveries, archaeologists also found the tomb of King Seuthes III, the ruler of the Odrysian kingdom in Thrace, dating back to the 4th century BC. His tomb was built under a mound 66 feet high, with a diameter of about 295 feet. Archaeologists found many valuable burial items, such as a golden crown, a golden cup, weapons, shields, and a bronze sculpture depicting the king. This discovery further highlighted the king's wealth and power during ancient times. These archaeological finds not only provide insight into past customs and beliefs, but also make us reflect on the mysteries still waiting to be uncovered beneath the ground. Unseen secrets in a 1,500-year-old tomb. Specifically, during excavation, archaeologists uncovered an ancient tomb dating back around 1,500 years, from the period of the Great Migration of European tribes, an era marked by the upheaval of tribal invasions and the reshaping of lands following the fall of the Roman Empire. At the center of the tomb, the archaeologists discovered a large copper cauldron, believed to have contained the ashes of the deceased, likely a high-ranking individual in society at the time. Archaeologist Suzanne Friedrich from the Halle Prehistory Museum explained, "We are still continuing to search for the remains of this person." This highlights the importance and intrigue of the excavation, as there is still much that remains unclear. Around the copper cauldron, experts found the remains of 6 women, leading them to hypothesize that these could be the deceased's concubines, possibly buried alongside him to serve him in the afterlife. However, whether these women were killed for the burial ritual or voluntarily participated remains an unanswered question. Additionally, the remains of 11 animals, including large livestock, dogs, and horses, were found. All of this suggests that the person buried in the tomb was of high social status. In addition to the main tomb, around 60 other graves were discovered in the archaeological site. Experts believe this could be an ancient cemetery, dating from around 480 to 530 AD after the fall of the Roman Empire, when Germanic tribes like the Huns began migrating and occupying lands no longer under Roman control. Particularly in these graves they found a glass bowl, several pieces of gold-plated jewelry accompanying clothing, a sword, an iron shield, a gold coin depicting Emperor Zeno, and many other items. Archaeologists believe the decorative glass pieces were likely crafted by artisans from the Gallo-Roman period living along the Rhine River, as only they possessed the skills to make such items. Ceramic bowl, containing human fingers and jewel-encrusted teeth. On May 29, 2024, a surprising archaeological discovery was made beneath the El Diablo Pyramid in El Zotz, Guatemala, where researchers uncovered a 1,600-year-old tomb, possibly belonging to an ancient Maya king. The tomb was perfectly preserved, containing strange and mysterious artifacts that left experts both stunned and intrigued. One of the most shocking discoveries was a bowl containing human fingers and jewel-encrusted teeth, a detail that made many shiver. The fingers and teeth were wrapped in decayed organic matter, possibly plant leaves, indicating a reverence and special ritual related to the death of the deceased. In addition to these bizarre objects, archaeologists also found the remains of 6 children who may have been sacrificed during the burial of the king. This raises questions about the burial customs and sacrificial rituals in Maya civilization, one of the most mysterious and advanced cultures in Central America. Archaeologist Stephen Houston from Brown University confirmed that this royal tomb holds an invaluable wealth of information, but it will take years of research to fully decode its mysteries. Before finding the tomb, the archaeological team discovered something peculiar at the ancient temple built to honor the sun god, a symbol of power and rule during the Maya period. While digging a small hole in the temple room, the scientists encountered a series of strange phenomena. A blood-red bowl filled with human fingers and teeth, along with mudstone, which may have been used to protect the tomb from the intrusion of air. The tomb had been perfectly sealed for over 1,600 years, preserving everything inside. When the excavation team removed the final layer of earth and dropped a light bulb inside, a magical sight appeared before them. Pieces of wood, fabric, and brightly colored plaster in blue, red, and yellow. The tomb was built with great craftsmanship, measuring 6.2 feet wide, 12.1 feet long, and 3.9 feet deep, large enough to bury one man. Although the experts could only make assumptions based on hieroglyphs, they believe the tomb belongs to a king, possibly the founder of a dynasty. The objects within the tomb not only have historical value, but also reflect the advanced artistic skills of the Maya civilization. The Maya civilization, one of the standout cultures in Central America, made remarkable achievements in areas like mathematics, astronomy, and architecture. This discovery not only sheds light on the mysterious aspects of the Maya people, but also opens the door to exploring their sacred rituals and burial customs. Dragon traces in a 6,000-year-old tomb in China. In Western culture, dragons symbolize evil, but in Eastern mythology, dragons are considered auspicious creatures, and there are many mysteries surrounding their origin. According to legend, dragons possess characteristics from various animals, such as a camel's head, deer antlers, rabbit eyes, elephant ears, a snake's neck, a frog's belly, carp scales, eagle claws, tiger paws, and 81 scales along their back. The corners of the dragon's mouth are adorned with long whiskers, and its chin has whiskers with a pearl. Dragons breathe out clouds, which can turn into rain or fire, and their roars are said to resemble the sound of a storm. There are different types of dragons, some with horns, some without, some with scales, some without, some with wings, others without. Within these types, there are 3 main categories: long, mighty, in the sky; li, hornless, living in the sea; and jiao, scaled, living in swamps or caves. Dragons can ride the clouds, tread the winds, dive underwater, and hide deep at the bottom of the sea. When walking on land, dragons sometimes move slowly and heavily. Ancient dragon worship held an important position in belief systems, symbolizing totems or spiritual creatures that were closely linked to politics, economy, literature, art, and folk customs from the Xia and Shang dynasties of China, and this influence has lasted for thousands of years. Dragons are always present in Chinese and Vietnamese mythology, ancient artifacts, paintings, divinations from turtle shells or bones, and in ancient texts like the Book of Changes, Classic of Mountains and Seas, and records of the Grand Historian. Since the time of Emperor Gaozu of the Han Dynasty, the Chinese dragon has been depicted with 5 claws and is considered a symbol of imperial power. All items belonging to the emperor were engraved or embroidered with dragon imagery. Royal beds, robes and carriages, house pillars, eaves, and more. The emperor's face was referred to as the dragon's face, and his body as the dragon's form. In Chinese, dragon is also used to refer to exceptionally talented individuals, while the opposite, those of lowly status, are compared to worms. For example, the idiom Vong Tu Then Long means hoping that one's son will be successful. While dragons have traditionally been seen as mythical creatures, archaeological evidence is increasingly challenging this view. In the late 1980s, the city of Bozhou in Henan Province, China, was planning to build a retention pond to redirect water from the Yellow River. However, during construction, an ancient city wall was discovered, drawing the attention of archaeologists. Investigations revealed that this was the ancient Bozhou city wall built by the later Liang Dynasty during the Five Dynasties period. Nearby, traces of the Yangshao culture, a Neolithic culture along the Middle Yellow River, were also found, dating back about 5,000 years to the era of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. A particularly unique tomb was also uncovered at the site. Inside, the tomb contained the skeleton of a young man, and around it, intricate depictions of a dragon and a tiger made of seashells were arranged. The tiger measured about 4.5 feet long and 2 feet tall, its limbs appearing as if it was walking. The dragon measured nearly 5.8 feet long and 2.2 feet tall. The year the tomb was discovered, 1988, coincided with the year of the dragon in the Chinese zodiac, which made this archaeological find a sensation in China's archaeological community. According to legend, the emperor rode a dragon to the heavens, but the discovery of these tombs from 6,000 years ago raises the question, did this legend truly exist? The depiction of such imagery in the tomb suggests that the legend may have been real. Moreover, the person buried here was accompanied by a dragon and a tiger, indicating the high status of the tomb's occupant. This evidence points to the existence of dragons long before the Yellow Emperor's time. Some experts speculate that the Yellow Emperor was not the first to create the dragon image, but may have reinterpreted its form to make it more recognizable. Subsequent generations revered the Yellow Emperor and may have considered him the originator of the dragon image. Although modern scholars generally view dragons as mythical creatures, art is often inspired by real life. The treasure in ancient Chinese tombs that delights experts. A recent archaeological excavation in the city of Suining, Sichuan Province, China, has led to an incredibly valuable discovery, shedding light on the lives and customs of the people during the Ming Dynasty, from 1368 to 1644. During this excavation, archaeologists uncovered 4 ancient tombs, built in the distinctive style of stone carving, containing impressive murals and priceless artifacts. One of the most surprising finds during the excavation was the discovery of ancient murals on the walls of the tomb. These murals are remarkably well preserved, with vivid colors that demonstrate the skill and artistry of the craftsmen from that era. The paintings depict vivid images of mythical creatures such as phoenixes, deer, and other animals, all of which hold deep symbolic significance in Chinese culture. Additionally, many murals feature beautiful depictions of flowers and plants, highlighting the decorative artistry of the period. Experts believe that these designs were not only aesthetically pleasing, but also reflected the worldview and religious beliefs of the people at that time. Based on the artifacts found in the tomb, experts speculate that it is the resting place of 4 couples with accompanying items that signify the importance and value of the deceased. Food still perfectly preserved in an ancient Tang Dynasty tomb in China. In 1959, archaeologists in Xinjiang, China, excavated an ancient tomb in Turpan and made some significant discoveries. According to experts, inside the tomb from the Tang Dynasty, they found dumplings that were remarkably well preserved. After thousands of years buried underground, the dumplings were still almost intact. What is particularly interesting is that the shape and color of the dumplings found in the tomb are very similar to those made today. Dumplings have been a popular food in China for thousands of years and are even favored by people in the Western regions. In addition to dumplings, experts also found other types of pastries in the Tang Dynasty tomb, including mooncakes, sweet cakes, and other desserts. The discovery of so many food items in the ancient Tang tomb highlights the rich and diverse culinary culture of that time. Experts believe the reason these dumplings and other foods remained almost perfectly preserved is due to the climate. The region's hot, dry conditions caused the foods to lose moisture quickly. These weather conditions, which persisted over many years, helped preserve the food almost intact over time. The 8 new archaeological discoveries in Africa that challenge everything scientists know about humankind. The 3-million-year-old stone tools. Africa, a land of history and untold mysteries, is home to one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of humankind. Specifically, at the Homa Peninsula in Kenya, also known as the Cradle of Humanity, archaeologists have recently uncovered ancient tools dating back as far as 3 million years. These tools are small stone knives with sharp edges, which scientists call the Oldowan toolkit. They are priceless artifacts that helped early hominids access a wide variety of foods they hadn't encountered before. These sharp stone knives allowed them to peel, cut fruits and vegetables, and even butcher hippopotamus meat. This marks a major turning point in the development of survival habits and skills among our ancestors. Moreover, the use of stone tools played a key role in the development of hominids, not only in terms of body size, but also in brain development, which helped them evolve further in their way of life. Archaeologist Tom Plummer from the City University of New York also emphasized that these tools helped hominids not only access a rich food supply, but also gave them the ability to master their environment. This stimulated the development of both the brain and the body, leading to the emergence of more advanced survival skills in the future. Additionally, one of the fascinating discoveries was the hippopotamus bones found near the tool site, confirming that hominids engaged in animal butchering, something for which there had been no clear evidence before. The discovery of these Oldowan tools on the Homa Peninsula is not just a breakthrough in archaeology, it's a window into the distant past of humanity. These findings not only answer questions about our origins, but also help us better understand the early stages of intellectual and civilizational development. This serves as clear evidence that Africa is the birthplace, the starting point of the great evolutionary journey of humankind. The oldest mummy of a child. You've probably thought that Egypt is famous for its remarkably well-preserved ancient mummies. But no, this might not be the place with the oldest mummy. Instead, Africa is the true keeper of the oldest known mummy. Deep in the desert mountains of southwestern Libya, researchers have discovered the mummy of a child named Tashwinot, which predates Egyptian mummies by over 1,000 years. Specifically, in the winter of 1958, archaeologist Fabrizio Mori explored a shelter in the Uwan Muhugiag cave, a place once inhabited by pastoralists. Mori found ancient remnants in the form of rock art depicting humans, animals, livestock, and many drawings from various periods. But when he started digging beneath the soft sand of the cave floor, he uncovered a strange bundle buried near the surface. The bundle, made of goat or antelope skin, contained the dried body of a child wrapped in leaves. The child had undergone a mummification process, with the internal organs removed after death through incisions on the abdomen and chest. This process, known as evisceration, involved replacing the organs with herbs, likely for preservation. The child was found in a fetal position, with a necklace made of ostrich eggshells around its neck. Analysis showed the child had dark skin and had died at around 3 years old. Carbon dating places the age of this mummy at approximately 5,400 to 5,600 years old. During the child's lifetime, the Sahara Desert was vastly different from today. The people who lived in Uwan Muhugiag resided in a much greener landscape. During this period, sometimes referred to as the African wet period, the Sahara was covered in grass, trees, and lakes, supporting the life of pastoralists in the area. Further evidence that the region around Uwan Muhugiag was much wetter than it is today comes from rock art depicting elephants, giraffes, crocodiles, while fish bones and ancient fishing tools have been found at other sites in the Sahara. Currently, scientists are still unsure whether the mummification practices at Uwan Muhugiag, which predate those in Egypt, influenced Egyptian mummification. However, the Tashwinot mummy shows that mummification in Africa has a much deeper and more complex history than experts previously thought. Researchers hope to conduct more analyses on this mummy in the near future to provide the public with the most accurate answer. Alien burial ground. Recently, a group of archaeologists discovered a mysterious burial site in the dense forest near the capital city, Kigali, in Rwanda, Central Africa. The skeletons found here had unusual shapes, not quite resembling humans. According to scientists, they were buried around 500 years ago. At first, scientists thought they were the remains of an ancient human species, but evidence showed that the surrounding area did not contain any signs of human habitation. What's particularly strange is that in one of the 40 shared graves, there were about 200 bodies, all well preserved. Some archaeologists believe these might be the remains of extraterrestrials, potentially killed by viruses on Earth to which they had no immunity. However, no traces of a spacecraft have been found in the area, not even a single fragment. This is not the first time unusual graves have been discovered. In the summer of 1937, a team of Chinese scientists, led by Professor Chi Pute, uncovered caves in the Bayan Karaula Mountains. Inside the caves, they found skeletons with unusually large heads and strange bodies. Nearby, there were 176 stone tablets, each with a hole in the center, inscribed with mysterious characters. Additionally, the cave walls were etched with depictions of the rising sun, the moon, and stars, with many lines drawn as dots. For 2 decades, experts worked to decode the ancient writings in the Bayan Karaula caves. Eventually, Professor Zoom Umchu from Peking University deciphered many of the symbols, revealing that around 12,000 years ago, some celestial bodies fell in the mountainous region. Interestingly, not long ago, in one of the ancient Egyptian tombs, a mummy was discovered that was over 8 feet tall, with no nose or ears, a wide mouth, and no tongue. According to archaeologist Gaston de Villars, the practice of mummification began around 4,000 years ago. The individual buried was an Egyptian noble, surrounded by the mummified remains of servants, food, drinks, and many burial items to maintain their daily life in the afterlife. However, researchers noticed that not all burial items belong to Egyptian culture or any known culture on Earth. For example, among the burial items were glossy discs inscribed with strange writing, clothing made from metal, and shoes made from a plastic-like material. Many stone tablets depicted images of stars, planets, and strange machines. The tomb's shrine also contained a strange mummy, and many religious artifacts were made from materials unknown in ancient times. The tomb's walls were cut from solid rock, making the surfaces perfectly smooth and glossy, almost as if they were cut with a laser. Some areas showed signs of melting stone to bond the materials. The tomb was decorated with lead-like materials. However, the theory of extraterrestrial involvement is not the only one. Some researchers suggest another hypothesis, that the giants and dwarfs may have been a branch of humanity once living alongside us, but eventually wiped out for reasons unknown. Of course, this remains a theory, and the truth is still a mystery. Do you think extraterrestrials exist? What's your take on this question? Let me know in the comments below. Willow wood poles from 476,000 years ago. Africa, the birthplace of humanity, has once again opened a new chapter in history, revealing secrets of the distant past through an extraordinary archaeological discovery. At the Kalambo Falls in Zambia, Africa, archaeologists have unearthed 2 willow wood poles that are approximately 476,000 years old. A discovery that not only changes the way we perceive prehistoric humans, but also highlights the timeless creativity of our ancestors. One of the poles is about 4.6 feet long, while the other is around 4.9 feet in length. Both poles were shaped with stone tools, demonstrating an astonishing advancement in the crafting and use of natural materials. Larry Barham, an archaeologist from the University of Liverpool and the leader of this study, explained that these poles could have been used for various purposes, including storing firewood, preserving food, and even serving as foundations for temporary structures like tents. This discovery clearly shows that our ancestors were not simply wandering hunter-gatherers, but they had the ability to build wooden structures, demonstrating life skills far beyond what we once imagined about prehistoric life. According to Barham, crafting these poles was no easy task. It required meticulous skill, careful planning, and the proper use of tools. Interestingly, although no human remains were found at Kalambo Falls, Barham suggests that these poles were most likely made by Homo heidelbergensis, a species that lived around 700,000 to 200,000 years ago. This species had larger skulls and flatter faces compared to earlier hominins, emphasizing the evolution of cognitive and creative abilities in our ancestors. This discovery not only expands our knowledge about prehistoric humans' ability to craft and use tools, but also proves that they had the ability to alter their environment to meet their survival needs. These wooden structures indicate that prehistoric humans, like Homo sapiens, had the capacity for long-term settlement and the construction of wooden buildings, a trait previously thought to belong to later civilizations. Thanks to the protective clay layers surrounding them, the 2 poles were preserved in an oxygen-free environment, preventing them from decaying over hundreds of thousands of years. Discoveries like this allow us to witness an important part of history, providing a fresh perspective on the lives of prehistoric humans, people who not only survived but also transformed the world around them through creativity and advanced skills. 200,000-year-old ancient tombs not made by our species. In June 2024, an excavation in South Africa sent shockwaves through the scientific community with the discovery of an ancient burial site containing the remains of a peculiar prehistoric human species. These remains did not belong to Homo sapiens, the species to which we belong, but to Homo naledi, an ancient human genus that resembled us but had very different features. These beings lived in trees and had much smaller brains compared to ours. This discovery represents a turning point in our understanding of human evolution. The remains were found 98 feet underground in the Cradle of Humankind cave system near Johannesburg, South Africa, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. These tombs were not only surprising because of their existence, but also because they revealed that burial practices appeared much earlier than previously thought. The research team, led by Dr. Lee Berger from the University of Witwatersrand, stated that these burials could have occurred around 200,000 years ago, at least 100,000 years earlier than the evidence of Homo sapiens burial practices. Homo naledi was a species with a brain the size of an orange and stood about 5 feet tall. They had bodies with many ape-like features, with arms and legs not fully suited to using tools or engaging in complex behaviors such as burying the dead. Yet the act of burial performed by this species shows that their cognitive abilities and social behaviors were much more complex than we once thought. Notably, burial rituals, once considered a trait unique to modern humans, were carried out by Homo naledi at an early point in the evolutionary timeline. This discovery raises significant questions about human evolution, suggesting that our development might not be a linear path, but rather a complex network, with species like Homo naledi potentially achieving social and cognitive advancements before their extinction. This research also alters the way we view ancient human species, especially behaviors once thought to be exclusive to Homo sapiens. To further understand the development of humanity and burial practices, scientists continue to excavate and study these remains at the Rising Star Cave System. This site is famous for its discoveries of other ancient human species and promises to reveal even more surprises about our evolutionary process. Let's stay tuned for what comes next. Extremely rare. Fossilized footprints of ancient humans. In Tanzania, on the east coast of Africa, researchers have discovered a group of ancient human fossilized footprints. These footprints, estimated to be thousands of years old, are the remains of a group of 17 ancient people who walked through this area. What is surprising is that despite having endured for thousands of years, these footprints are still perfectly preserved to this day. With more than 400 footprints, this is the largest group of human fossilized footprints ever discovered in Africa. Scientists believe this discovery offers an insightful glimpse into the life of humans during the late Pleistocene period. It not only helps us better understand the daily activities of ancient humans, but it also indicates a division of labor within communities at that time. Kevin Hatala, a paleontologist at Chatham University in Pittsburgh, stated that this is an extremely rare discovery, providing fascinating direct windows into the distant past of humanity. Through scientific analysis and verification methods, researchers estimate that these footprints date back to between 19,100 and 5,760 years ago. Notably, based on the size, spacing, and direction of the footprints, scientists suggest that they were primarily made by a group of adult women. Further analysis also shows that the group likely consisted of 14 females, 2 males, and 1 child. This paints a picture of gender division and labor within the ancient human community. Meanwhile, Professor Cynthia Lutkus-Pierce from Appalachian State University, a co-author of the study, explained that these footprints were preserved in a unique black lava rock from the old Doinyo Lengai volcano, an active volcano to this day. The solidity of the volcanic ash helped protect the details of the footprints, preventing them from eroding despite the surrounding area having undergone thousands of years of natural disasters. The researchers believe that these footprints are not only biological traces, but also provide a unique depiction of collaborative foraging behavior and gender division within the late Pleistocene human community. This is an important discovery, opening up opportunities for scientists to continue researching and understanding the lives of our ancestors during a period of history full of mystery. Fossil of a strange ankylosaur, dinosaur. A fossil of a strange ankylosaur dinosaur recently discovered in Africa is causing excitement within the scientific community. This is one of the rarest and most important discoveries, not only because of the uniqueness of the fossil, but also because of the surprising appearance of this dinosaur in a region where its presence had never been recorded before. So what makes this dinosaur special, and why is finding its fossil so significant? Ankylosaurs are a group of dinosaurs that were famous during the Cretaceous period, characterized by their thick armor with sharp spines on their backs, an excellent defense mechanism against predators. Previously, ankylosaur fossils had mainly been discovered in North America, with a few small findings in areas like Asia. However, this time, scientists have discovered the fossil of a new ankylosaur species originating from the Middle Atlas Mountains in Morocco, Africa, marking the first appearance of this dinosaur group on the continent. What surprised scientists was the sharp spiny armor on the back of this dinosaur. According to research published in Nature Ecology and Evolution, the sharp spines were not just an external feature, they were directly connected to the animal's skeleton. This is a characteristic never before seen in any dinosaur species. Typically, the spikes and armor of dinosaurs like Stegosaurus or Ankylosaurs are attached to the skin, not the skeleton. However, with this new ankylosaur species, the sharp spines are firmly connected to the skeleton, even attaching to the animal's ribs. This fossil is dated to around 168 million years ago, during the middle of the Jurassic period, meaning it could be one of the earliest ankylosaurs to appear on Earth. This dinosaur has been named Spicamelus, reflecting the distinctive feature of its spiny armor and the location of its discovery. Dr. Maidment, a paleontologist at the Natural History Museum in London, believes that this fossil is entirely different from any known species, from its bone structure to the formation of its armor. Therefore, with the discovery of Spicamelus, scientists hope to make further discoveries about the dinosaur species that lived in Africa during the Jurassic period. This not only expands our understanding of the distribution and diversity of dinosaurs worldwide, but it also provides more clues about the planet's ecological history in the distant past. 16th century treasure. It all began on an ordinary day when a group of miners off the coast of Namibia, Africa, stumbled upon the wreck of the Bom Jesus, a Portuguese ship that sank in 1533 while en route to India. The ship not only contained gold, silver, and other valuable materials, but what particularly amazed archaeologists and biologists were the discovery of over 100 African elephant tusks. At the time, scientific research indicated that these tusks were not simple items. They were vivid evidence of the diversity of wildlife in the past. Genetic and chemical analyses revealed that these tusks came from African forest elephants, Loxodonta cyclotis, not savanna elephants. This was a fascinating discovery, as these herds had either disappeared or drastically declined due to poaching and habitat loss. The incredible preservation of the elephant tusks was also a remarkable phenomenon. When the Bom Jesus sank, copper and lead bars wrapped around the tusks pushed them to the ocean floor, forming a natural protective layer that kept the tusks from being scattered or eroded. In addition, a cold ocean current in the region played a crucial role in preserving the DNA within the tusks. Scientists successfully extracted DNA from 44 tusks, and the results showed that they all came from at least 17 different forest elephant herds scattered across West Africa, offering a vivid picture of the past ecosystem and ivory trade network. However, the discovery didn't stop at valuable materials. It also provided vital information about ecological history. Carbon and nitrogen isotope analysis of the tusks revealed that these elephants didn't only live in dense forests, but also roamed grasslands, challenging the previous understanding that forest elephants exclusively inhabited tropical forests. Moreover, the research uncovered an important aspect of the historical ivory trade. The fact that the tusks on the Bom Jesus came from multiple herds suggests that West African communities were actively involved in a thriving ivory trade network during the 16th century. However, it remains unclear whether the Portuguese traders collected the tusks from a single port or multiple ports along the West African coast. Perhaps to answer this question, further analysis will be needed, which may provide deeper insights into these historical trade networks. 9 most mysterious and scariest mummies in the world. Mummy rolling down from the mountaintop. For most mummies found around the world up to this point, scientists have had to put in a lot of effort, searching, digging, and even spending a significant amount of money. However, one mummy was discovered in a completely unexpected way, and that is the mummy of Juanita. The reason she was given this name is because she was found on the top of Mount Amparo, an inactive volcano in the Andes mountain range. On September 8, 1995, archaeologist Johann Reinhard and his assistant Miguel Zarate accidentally discovered the mummy of Juanita while surveying the terrain. The melting snow revealed the mummy, which had rolled down the mountainside, and it was found by Reinhard and Zarate during their second expedition up the mountain in October of that year. In addition, they discovered 2 more mummies in a lower area of the Amparo mountain range. Researchers believe that the mummy of Juanita was a victim of an important Inca sacrificial ritual called Capacocha, a ritual that required the Inca people to sacrifice their finest and healthiest individuals. Many believe that this sacrifice was performed to offer the best of what humans had to the gods in hopes of ensuring bountiful harvests or preventing natural disasters. However, this idea is completely misguided, and it could even be seen as blasphemy, as humans had often anthropomorphized gods, implying that the gods could accept bribes like humans do. When Juanita was discovered, her entire body was wrapped in a bundle. In addition to her remains, the bundle contained various artifacts, including small clay figurines, shells, and gold items. Another interesting scientific analysis revealed details about Juanita's life, specifically isotope analysis on her hair. Because the mummy was well preserved, scientists were able to perform this analysis. The results provided researchers with insights into her diet. The analysis indicated that she was chosen as a sacrificial offering about a year before her death. Evidence for this comes from changes in her diet, revealed through the isotope analysis of her hair. Prior to being selected for sacrifice, Juanita's diet consisted of typical Incan foods like potatoes and vegetables. However, about a year before her death, her diet changed to include meat and corn, which were foods typically reserved for the elite. 2,200-year-old mummy suffered from obesity due to a high-sugar diet. Are you overweight or obese and also a bit lazy? It seems you're not alone in this. I'm not talking about today's era, but thousands of years ago. The first remains of a 2,200-year-old ancient priestess were displayed at the Israel Museum last year. CT scans of the mummy revealed that this individual, named Iret Hor Iru, had health issues like tooth decay and clogged arteries, common conditions seen in societies with many obese people today. The exhibition curator, Gallet Bennett, explained that this mummy, nicknamed Alex, also suffered from osteoporosis and gum recession, signs that she had consumed a lot of sugar and starch during her life. The autopsy revealed that Alex led a sedentary lifestyle and rarely spent time in the sun, instead enjoying the lavish life of Egypt's elite. Bennett added, "Osteoporosis is a typical condition of the 20th century, when people no longer had to do hard physical labor. The generations afterwards started to spend more time attached to computer screens. We were surprised to learn that even thousands of years ago, some people's lack of physical activity had a similar impact on their bodies as it does today. But it's not too surprising because, according to ancient sculptors, being overweight was seen as a sign of wealth and good health. Food in those times was not abundant, and fatness was something to aspire to. In Europe, a larger body weight was seen as an indicator of a wealthy life, free from hard labor. It seems that ancient Egypt was no different. But Alex is not the only obese mummy. An experiment conducted in 2013 on 137 mummies from around the world revealed that 34% of them had heart disease. Studies of bodies found on Kagamil Island near Alaska also showed that heart disease was not uncommon, even among people who were physically active. Although many consider arteriosclerosis to be a modern disease, evidence suggesting that this condition existed before the modern world developed opens up possibilities that these heart conditions may have a different, yet unexplored nature. Anyway, don't be lazy or overeat unhealthy food. Take care of your health. The smoke-dried mummies on the mountain walls. Normally, we see mummies being carefully embalmed and preserved in gold, stone, or precious wood coffins. However, for many centuries, the Anga tribe in the Morobe Highlands of Papua New Guinea has practiced a chilling embalming technique by smoking the bodies. They didn't bury them, but instead placed them on steep cliff walls, visible to the villages below. The sight of a row of red mummies hanging from the cliff is eerie and quite strange, but for the Anga people, this is the highest form of respect for the deceased. The embalming process was performed by skilled individuals. After being smoked, the mummies were covered in clay and red earth, which created a natural cocoon that protected the body from decay and scavengers. Once the embalming was completed, the mummies were hung on the cliffs. All men, women, and even children in the Anga tribe were embalmed in this manner. Even more frightening, during memorial days or important events, the mummies could be taken down from the cliffs and then rehung afterward. Fortunately, this embalming ritual was banned in 1975 when Papua New Guinea gained independence. Today, only a few remote tribes continue this terrifying embalming tradition. The mysterious mummies of the Chilean desert. The Atacama Desert in Chile is home to one of the most mysterious and unique cultures in human history, the ancient Chinchorro people. Their mummies are not only surprising for their sophisticated embalming techniques, but also for the unique beliefs and rituals they practiced to preserve the presence of their ancestors. Unlike other cultures, such as ancient Egypt, where only kings or nobles were mummified, the Chinchorro performed this ritual for everyone, regardless of age or social status. Infants, fetuses, and even animals were all mummified and meticulously cared for, just like adults. The Chinchorro mummies are particularly unique, displayed in various postures such as lying down, sitting, and even some with smiles on their faces. These mummies still retain their skin, hair, and clothing, creating a vivid image of the deceased. One of the most bizarre aspects is that some of the mummies' faces were made from pelican skin, creating very distinct faces with peaceful or smiling expressions. These mummies are not only archaeological artifacts, but also an important part of the Chinchorro people's beliefs and spiritual life. The Chinchorro's embalming techniques were advanced and distinctive. One of the main methods was natural desiccation, but the most important factor in preserving the mummies was the arid environment of the Atacama Desert. The high temperatures and low humidity of the area helped the bodies quickly lose water, preventing bacterial growth and preserving the bodies in good condition. Some mummies even still have their skin and hair, which is rare in other mummification cultures. The Chinchorro's embalming rituals lasted over 3,000 years and evolved through several stages. About 7,000 years ago, as the Chinchorro population began to increase, embalming techniques were improved and flourished. Some mummies are distinguished by masks made from cloth wraps, ropes, and pelican skin, showcasing a unique artistic style of this culture. One notable discovery was the mummy of a boy with a mask buried on a reed mat, with his organs replaced by earth and covered with a layer of black manganese ash. The Chinchorro mummies are not just ancient artifacts, but reflect a deep belief in the eternal presence of ancestors. These mummies were not only carefully buried, but were often paraded around the village before being laid to rest, showing respect and connection to the spirit world. Additionally, the use of materials like reeds and ash to reinforce the bones and joints of the deceased shows the creativity and skill in the Chinchorro's embalming art. Particularly for the Chinchorro, it was not just adults but also children who were meticulously cared for and mummified. The child mummies were attached to wooden frames and worn on their parents' backs, creating both an impressive and touching image of generational bonds. This shows a unique aspect of Chinchorro culture, where life and death were not separated. These mysterious mummies continue to be a fascinating subject of study for archaeologists. While there are many similarities in mummification techniques across cultures, the Chinchorro's uniqueness is undeniable. They were not only ordinary hunters and gatherers, but also people with high intelligence and skill in protecting and honoring the souls of their ancestors, leaving an indelible mark on human history. The mummies in the Capuchin Crypt. The Capuchin Crypt in Palermo, Sicily, Italy, is one of the most eerie and macabre destinations, attracting visitors from all over the world. It is not just an ordinary crypt, but is considered the treasure trove of Europe's largest collection of mummies, with approximately 1,284 mummified bodies, including 163 mummified children. This crypt, built in the 16th century, has become an important part of Palermo's history and culture, and a fascinating destination for those seeking strange and challenging experiences. Upon entering the Capuchin Crypt, visitors immediately sense the cold, damp atmosphere, with the faint smell of decay hanging in the still air. The skeletons are neatly arranged on the walls in various postures, lying down, standing, sitting. These bodies were preserved by their family members with the purpose of preserving the soul of the deceased. The clothing they wore, from monks' robes, soldiers' uniforms, to women's dresses, offers a glimpse into the lives and times they lived. Particularly, the mummies of children, dressed in their finest clothes, create a stark contrast to the adult mummies. One of the most famous and exceptionally well-preserved mummies in the crypt is that of Rosalia Lombardo, a 2-year-old girl who died in 1920 from pneumonia caused by the Spanish flu. Her father enlisted the help of Alfredo Salafia, a chemist, to preserve his daughter's body. Today, Rosalia's mummy is considered one of the best-preserved mummies in the world. Her skin still has a pinkish hue, and her hair is tied with a yellow ribbon, giving the impression that she is peacefully sleeping. This perfect preservation has attracted the interest of researchers and tourists visiting the crypt. However, alongside the well-preserved mummies, the Capuchin crypt contains many mysteries. One intriguing aspect is the identity and cause of death of many of the child mummies. Although there is little information about these children, scientists like Dr. Kirsty Squires from Staffordshire University are conducting research to solve these mysteries. According to her, most of these children came from middle-class families, but why they were mummified like adults remains unanswered. The Capuchin crypt not only preserves these bodies, but also reflects the cultural and religious values of that era. One interesting fact is that not all the mummies were treated equally. Male mummies were placed far from female mummies, monk mummies were not placed near those of artists or lawyers, and child mummies were always separated from the adults. This suggests a societal and religious hierarchy of the time. Initially, this crypt was reserved for Capuchin friars, but it later opened to the public and became one of the most mysterious and fascinating attractions in Palermo. For those who enjoy the eerie, thrilling experiences and wish to explore the mysteries of life and death, the Capuchin crypt is a must-see. It is not just a treasure trove of mummies, but a living testament to the sophisticated mummification techniques and the beliefs of the people of Palermo throughout the centuries. The 4,200-year-old Egyptian mummy that died of cancer. On September 19th, an eye-catching report was published in the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society A, where an international research team from Australia and South Korea revealed a surprising discovery about the cause of death of an ancient Egyptian. Specifically, the study was conducted by analyzing protein samples taken from the skin and muscles of mummies dating back up to 4,200 years. The research team collected 4 skin samples and 1 muscle biopsy from 3 mummies preserved at the Egyptian Museum in Turin, Italy. These mummies date back to approximately 281 to 2055 BCE, during Egypt's first intermediate period. The mummies were excavated from cemeteries in Asyut and Gebelein between 1911 and 1920 as part of a project led by archaeologist Ernesto Schiaparelli. Among the mummies were those of a woman named Kepichet and a man named Idi, both of whom were buried with various items in tightly sealed wooden coffins, while the mummy from Gebelein was buried in a coffin made from a hollow tree trunk. By analyzing over 230 proteins from the mummy samples, the research team discovered evidence of inflammation, infections, and signs of cancer. Notably, when analyzing the skin tissue of Kepichet's mummy, they identified a protein indicative of a strong immune response. This is a clear sign of a lung infection, possibly tuberculosis, a disease that had a high fatality rate in the past. Similarly, the mummy of the man Idi revealed several proteins associated with inflammation and a strong immune response. In his muscle sample, the team discovered 2 important proteins, DMBT1, which has tumor-suppressing properties, and transglutaminase, an enzyme both linked to cancer development, particularly pancreatic cancer. Scientists speculate that ID may have suffered from pancreatic cancer or another form of cancer, which led to his death. However, analyzing the third mummy proved difficult due to an insufficient amount of protein collected to draw a clear conclusion about the cause of death. Experts noted that the skeleton of this mummy was not buried in a sealed coffin, but placed in a hollow wooden log, which exposed the mummy to environmental factors and led to a degradation of proteins. The first intermediate period, to which these mummies belong, was a time of political instability, drought, and famine in Egypt. These factors likely weakened the immune systems of the people, making them more susceptible to infectious diseases such as malaria, tuberculosis, and parasitic diseases like leishmania. This research not only provides insight into the diseases that plagued ancient Egyptians, but also highlights the connection between those diseases and the ailments still present in modern society. The 5,000-year-old Oetzi mummy and the mysterious curse. Mummies from ancient times often carry deep secrets and sometimes, uncovering these secrets can result in terrifying consequences. A prime example of this phenomenon is the famous Iceman, Oetzi mummy, discovered in a strange event that caused a stir in the media and led people to associate it with a haunting curse. But what is the truth behind this story? On September 19, 1991, while crossing the Ötztal Alps, two German mountaineers stumbled upon a perfectly preserved mummy, encased in ice. This turned out to be the oldest mummy ever found in Europe, dating back 5,000 years, and it was named Oetzi. The examination of the mummy took place at Hauslabjoch, located on the border between Austria and Italy. From the beginning, many hypotheses were proposed about Oetzi's death and the circumstances surrounding it. However, the biggest question that scientists still can't answer is, what was Oetzi doing on this snow-covered mountaintop year-round? Oetzi was a 45-year-old man who lived during the transitional period between the Stone Age and the Bronze Age. On his body, scientists found various tools such as a stone axe, an unfinished bow and arrows, and a backpack made of pine and yew wood. Through studies of the mummy, it is believed that Oetzi was a hunter living in the Vinschgau region south of the Alps. However, another hypothesis suggests that Oetzi may not have just been a shepherd, but perhaps a shaman. The tools found with him, along with tattoos on his body and white stones and twisted leather strings, indicate that Oetzi could have had connections to the spiritual world. Yet, the frightening part is not just the mystery surrounding Oetzi's life and death, but also the string of mysterious deaths linked to the excavation of his mummy. After Oetzi was discovered, a series of strange deaths occurred. The first was Rainer Henn, a forensic pathologist who died in a car accident. Next was Kurt Fritz, the guide who discovered Oetzi's body, who died in an avalanche. Subsequent deaths, such as those of Rainer Holtz, Helmut Simon, the discoverer of Oetzi's body, Dieter Warnecke, Konrad Spindler, and Tom Loy, all occurred mysteriously, creating a chilling sequence of events that led people to wonder whether a dark curse was tied to this mummy. While the curse of Oetzi remains unsolved, his mummy is currently preserved at the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology, where scientists continue to study it in an effort to unravel the mysteries surrounding his origin and identity. Was Oetzi simply an ordinary man, or did he possess ancient mystical powers? And is the curse associated with the deaths of those involved in the excavation just a coincidence? Or is there something truly strange at play that we have yet to explain? Oetzi's story is just one example, showing that mummies are not only historical artifacts, but may also carry mysterious and dangerous tales from the past. 2,500-year-old mummy with a beating heart. In ancient Egyptian culture, mummies were not only part of religious rituals, but also proof of an advanced civilization. However, a recent discovery in an excavation on the outskirts of Luxor, Egypt, has shocked the scientific community as experts found a 2,500-year-old mummy with a still beating heart. This is truly bizarre, even illogical, leaving researchers perplexed. The heart of this mummy, although dried and having lost the soft shape of a living organ, continued to beat regularly, like a pacemaker. After analysis, experts realized that there was a structure within the mummy's chest cavity resembling a pacemaker, a device capable of regulating the heart's beat through special vibrations and frequencies. This becomes even more puzzling when considering the lack of medical technology in ancient Egypt at the time. How could the Egyptians have created such a sophisticated device over 2,500 years ago? Could there have been an external intervention that we cannot yet explain? One hypothesis put forward is the involvement of extraterrestrials. This is not entirely far-fetched when we consider the strange evidence from ancient monuments and relics. At the Seti I Temple in Abydos, Egypt, a carved tablet dating from 3,000 to 5,000 years ago depicts strange hieroglyphs resembling spaceships, jet planes, or even helicopters, modern flying vehicles that ancient Egyptians could not have had access to at the time. These symbols even depict strange beings with large skulls and big eyes, resembling the little green men often seen in science fiction films. Additionally, the drawings on Egyptian memorials also illustrate flying objects that resemble spaceships, leading many to suspect that extraterrestrials may have visited ancient Egypt and possibly shared advanced knowledge with its people. If the significant development in medical technology could be explained by the intervention of an extraterrestrial civilization, it would open a new door to the mysteries of ancient Egypt that science has yet to fully unravel. Although extraterrestrial theories remain controversial, The discovery of the still-beating heart of a 2,500-year-old mummy will undoubtedly continue to attract attention and raise many unanswered questions. Was ancient Egyptian medical technology truly as advanced as it seems, or are there mystical factors that we do not yet understand? 300-year-old mummy suddenly opens its eyes. This incident took place in a large church in a city in western Mexico. It is known that this young girl was Catholic. 300 years ago, she was murdered by her own father simply because she wanted to join the Christian faith. To memorialize her, people used wax to preserve her body and placed it in a glass coffin. Until recently, there had been no unusual occurrences, but then people witnessed a moment when the 300-year-old corpse of the girl suddenly opened her eyes and stared directly at the person in front of her, before closing her eyes again as if nothing had happened. Though it only lasted for a few seconds, this moment became a controversial topic among many tourists. According to the footage captured in the clip, the girl's eyes were initially closed, as if she were peacefully sleeping. But at the 16-second mark, she suddenly opened her eyes and looked directly at the camera. Although it only lasted for 3 seconds, the phenomenon terrified many people. The video has since garnered numerous views on YouTube. Most viewers are frightened by it, but some insist that it is simply a staged, edited video designed to scare the faint-hearted. What about you? Do you believe in this story? Feel free to share your thoughts below. Also, if you found today's video interesting, don't forget to give the channel a like and subscribe to ensure you don't miss any other intriguing videos. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.